Hey guys, we're going to do more affidavits from the Afroman trial today. First one up is going to be Afroman's second deposition. It's really going to be related to the countersuit, which was still live at the time. And that affidavit, there's going to be, that deposition, there's going to be a lot of questions about the search warrant and the probable cause affidavit. So to get the context before we read Afroman's second deposition, and if you missed part one, the link to his first deposition's in the description. But we're going to start off with the affidavit that supported the search warrant for Afroman's house back in August of 2022. That's going to ground us. It's going to be important context for what we're about to see. So if you have not seen this yet, this is what Brian Newland represented to the court in support of getting the search warrant. So the undersigned, being duly sworn, stated he has no reason to believe there is now being concealed. He has reason to believe, that was a slip. Reason to believe there is now being concealed certain contraband evidence or property, namely, items of evidence, including but not limited to unknown quantity of marijuana, marijuana derivatives, any and all other drugs of abuse, drug paraphernalia, including scales, packaging materials, and paraphernalia used for the sale and administration of said drugs, money, and it says money, comma, and then obtained from the sale of illegal drugs, documentation, which I think is an interesting grammatical error given the context of the missing money, from the sale of illegal drugs, documentation regarding the sale of illegal drugs, as well as weapons used for the protection of the above, which are being concealed in violation of the different statutes for possession of drugs, trafficking in drugs, and for kidnapping. So if you've been watching the body cam videos with us, Brian Newland prepared this affidavit, but when he's speaking and he's talking about what the search warrant's for, he only wants to tell Angela that they're looking for narcotics, they're looking for drugs. He doesn't want to say anything else. So we've got his address, and we've seen his address a million times. I'm just still not trying to just put numbers out there all willy-nilly. Being a single family, 2-story home with white siding, having green shutters and a green metal roof, with a covered front porch and a gravel driveway, having a large white metal pole barn style structure with a green metal roof on the north side of the primary residence, with a wooden fence surrounding the property, and being the current residence of Joseph Foreman, referred to as Afroman, to include any and all other small outbuildings, storage containers, curtilage, vehicles, and or persons located on the property. So the facts tending to establish, so what is our basis? What is our basis for going in on this? For the foregoing for the issuance of a search warrant. The affiant is currently employed as detective with the Adams County Sheriff's Office, who states the following. Affiant states, on August 21st, 2022, law enforcement from the Sheriff's Office went to an address at Heather Holly Lane in Winchester, Adams County, to conduct a knock and talk with resident confidential informant number 1 in regard to information obtained on suspected drug activity. Confidential informant number 1 consented to a search of her residence, which resulted in law enforcement locating 4 colorless plastic baggies containing large amounts of green leafy vegetation. A field test conducted on the green leafy vegetation, which did indicate the presence of THC, the principal psychoactive constituent of cannabis, with a combined weight of approximately 2,131 grams, being more than 1,000 grams, but less than 5,000 grams, a felony in the 3rd degree. Detectives additionally located a small colorless plastic cylinder with a label stating Afroman. So remember, they go do a knock and talk on somebody else. And this is what they're finding at her house. So then they find a small colorless plastic cylinder with a label stating Afroman and, quote, high-grade cannabis, that also contains similar green leafy substance. A field test was conducted on the green leafy substance, which did indicate the presence of THC. Confidential informant number 1 further stated that he or she was holding the marijuana for Afroman. Affiant further states on August 21st, 2022, during conversation with confidential informant number 1, stated she has known Joseph Foreman, aka Afroman, aka Fro, for approximately 10 years, where she originally started working as Joseph Foreman's personal assistant. Confidential informant 1 continued to state she routinely traveled the U.S. with Afroman to concerts and marijuana dispensaries where they would obtain large amounts of marijuana to be transported back to Adams County, Ohio. CI1 further stated that she and Afroman have been intimate for approximately 8 years, where he or she, being CI1, visited the quote farmhouse, being Afroman's residence at Russellville Road. CI stated during these last 8 years, she's consistently observed large amounts of money and marijuana at Afroman's residence. CI1 further stated Afroman has a basement, referred to as the dungeon, in which he, being Afroman, Joseph Foreman, keeps women locked in, forcing them to urinate and defecate in a bucket as punishment for upsetting or disobeying him. CI1 further stated that she was last at Afroman's residence approximately 1 month ago, where she, being confidential informant number 1, observed a female known as Jo exiting the dungeon. Confidential informant 1 described Jo as a short, dark-haired woman, possibly Hispanic. CI1 also indicated that she believed Jo is from California, although Afroman paid CI's estranged husband to pick up Jo in Mississippi. And remember, Afroman's not from Hattiesburg, but for a while he lived in Hattiesburg. So, Affian further states CI indicated that Afroman, and they're spelling his name wrong again, utilized armed security at all times, stating he has some old rapper from LA doing it. CI1 stated that there is a guard check on the west side of the residence where security cameras are monitored. Affiant further states confidential informant number 1 accurately described the exterior of the property at Russellville Road, further stating that the entire upstairs of the primary residence is Afroman's bedroom. CI1 further indicated that Afroman has multiple mini garages, which are utilized to store marijuana and Afroman's brand of malt liquor called Fro, T5, because you guys are going to yell at me if I say the V. And then the last page, Affiant further states that confidential informant 1 indicated that Afroman, Joe Foreman, they keep going and changing his name every time they do a parenthetical, has a large metal building behind the residence where he stores cars. CI1 stated that she and her husband built a fitness room of the building, which has a false wall. And you can go watch them try to crawl in that false wall on the body cam, and they find nothing. It's a fun time. CI stated Afroman uses the false wall room to store marijuana and money. Affian states confidential informant, and that would be so stupid because the fitness room has a regular exterior door, a single door exterior door. It would be an easy location. You only have to break down one thing to get to this access point. So if Afroman's already dealt with burglaries, he's getting safes, he's putting his money further away in his house in a safe where you have to get through the house further to get to it, why would you start storing everything at a direct access point? But okay. Affian states CI indicated that she has not been to Russellville Road in approximately 1 month due to Afroman releasing a video depicting him urinating on Tasha Chamblin's head. CI1 indicated before that incident she would visit the residence on a daily basis and did so for approximately 8 years. CI further stated that she would observe the aforementioned activity at the residence every visit. Affiant further requests that a search warrant be granted for Russellville Road, Winchester, Adams County, to further investigate the aforementioned activity described in this affidavit. And then that's granted. And again, all these representations are from Brian Newland, Sergeant Brian Newland. So I've got a lot of questions here because we know he doesn't have a basement. They keep looking for a basement if you watch the body cam, they sound disappointed when they are walking back into the garage area and say, this is all on ground, meaning there's no basement and foundation below it. So additionally, this woman who signs off on this affidavit is found with what would be a 3rd-degree felony amount of marijuana in Ohio. And because they find this little container that says Afroman on it, it seems like she starts saying, yeah, it's from Afroman. He's got all this stuff in his house. But something that sends my BS meter flying, she knows about all this stuff going on in the house and she keeps going over there. She's friends with him she's intimate with him for 8 years. She's over there all the time. The woman Jo that's referenced is around Afroman for a few months. So Affiant's over there while Afroman's having his situation with this woman, Joe. But she only decides she doesn't want to go over there anymore when he publishes a video online peeing on somebody else's head. You're not deterred by the actual women in this dungeon defecating and pissing in buckets. You're only, oh, I stopped going over there because he posted one of his videos. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. But Brian Newland was hot and ready to raid this house. So let's get back to the depositions, you guys. Again, we had read the September 3rd, 2024 deposition. It was a lengthy one. That's the main one, the heart of, it was the plaintiffs deposing Afroman. The next in chronological order is going to be from August 6th of 2025. It's going to be a little bit shorter. Maybe, because it's the 4-panel things. So we'll see. And it's going to be the other attorney that starts off. So with the countersuit, the plaintiffs were defendants in the countersuit, and they had a different attorney for that action. So this one's going to be Mosier, I think was his name. So we'll see. So this is at 10 a.m. And let's see. It's at the law offices of David Osborne, so the same location that Lisa video was filmed. And who do we have present? So we have Klingler for the plaintiffs, and then for the plaintiff's counterclaim, it is David Mosier and Sarah McElroy. And then David Osborne for Afroman. Also present, you have Lakin Schaefer, who's doing the videography, Brian Newland, Lisa Phillips, Sean Cooley, Justin Cooley, Michael Estep, Sean Grooms. So Randy's not there, and I don't think Randy was there for the other one either, but all of the other plaintiffs were there present while this deposition was taking place. So let's see. They're stipulating that they're going to be able to question as if on cross-examination. And then we've got Joseph Foreman, a defendant herein of lawful age, having been first duly sworn as hereinafter certified, was examined and testified as follows. So cross-examination by Mr. Mosier. He says, all right, good morning, Mr. Foreman. What if he said good morning, ladies? He says, good morning. It is good to see you again. If you recall, my name is David Mosier. I'm an attorney that is involved in this lawsuit in a somewhat of a limited capacity. Just so you know, I represent the officers specifically in defense of the countersuit that you filed against them. Right. Okay, so I'm here with my colleague, Sarah McElroy, and just so I don't mispronounce it again, and I have some follow-up questions. I know this is we're resuming your deposition that we started, I believe it was almost a year ago, September 3rd of 2024. You took some time to answer some questions from my colleague, Mr. Klingler, about a year ago. If you remember, I stated that day on the record that I reserved the right to follow up some questions with you. There were some pending motions back at that time. Those have since been resolved, so we're back here again, and I would like to ask you some follow-up questions. Couple bit of reminders, just so you know. I'm going to do my very best, my very, very best, he says, because I'm conscious of your time, not to repeat things that have already been asked of you. Of course, with it being almost a year since that time, I may not be able to avoid a few questions that you may have already answered that are a bit redundant, but I've really prepared doing my due diligence to make sure that we avoid that, okay? So Afroman says yes. He says you might remember some of the reminders that Mr. Klingler gave you the last time, just to refresh your memory about your protocol here. Please make sure that you speak clearly. We are transcribing this deposition today, so it's important that you give audible answers. Again, if it's a yes or no answer, please state yes or no. We need them to be verbal. Our court reporter can't transcribe very well, a head shake or a mumbling or things like that. So just reminders on that front. Are we clear there? He says I won't mumble. Okay. Please also try to give affirmative answers. And if you don't, I'll probably make sure that you do, if that makes sense. Do you understand? Yes or no? Yes. Got it. That was your first test and you passed. Make sure you let me, and you've done a good job of this already. You did a very good job the last time. Let me finish asking the question, getting it out before you answer. I'll do my best to self-correct. And if I've stated a question poorly, I'll try to rephrase it. If you don't understand, just tell me that. That makes it much easier. If you need a break for the restroom or a drink or to talk with your counsel, please state so and we'll go off the record briefly. The one rule about that under the rules that we require is that if I've already asked a question, if a question is out on the table, you do need to answer it before we take that break. Understood? Yes. All right, very good. A reminder that you did just take an oath again. You are back under oath to tell the truth, and I'm going to dive right in to asking some questions specific today. I'll be honest with you. I'm asking about the search at your home on August 21st of 2022 that was completed by some Adams County Sheriff's deputies, okay? You were asked a lot of questions at the time. Some questions about that's going to be my focus today. I'm not really going to have many questions for you about your social media posts, some of the songs, the music, art that you created as a result of that execution of the search warrant, and I might refer to it as the raid, the execution of the warrant. I think we're all understanding what I'm talking about with respect to the August 21st when I say that. Is that clear? Yes. So just updating me from last year. And again, we might have the two addresses here. So 99 is the one where the raid happened. And then there was another Russellville Road that's right next door where like his kids live. So he still resides there? Yes, sir. All right. And I recall at the time an individual named Joey Lambert, this is the woman, had just moved out of that house around the time of your deposition around a year ago. Is that correct? She left I don't remember when she stopped, when she left, but it was a good bit before the deposition. Okay, let me ask you this. Is there anyone else currently residing with you there? No, sir. Has anyone else lived at the 99 address other than you in the past year? No, sir. All right, and then everybody's next door at the 45 address, and they're still there as of today. Yes. And they're still living there with your ex-wife, Angela Foreman, at that address? Yes, sir. All right. As of today, you still both own both of those residences? Yes, sir. And to be clear, I know we know this, but the search warrant that was executed in August of 2022, that was executed at the 99 address. Is that true? Yes, sir. Now, at some point, you received a copy of the search warrant that authorized the raid on your home in August of last year. Is that true? He said some kind of way. Do you remember anything specifically about how you got your hands on a copy of that warrant? I believe if it wasn't my attorney, somebody helped me. I don't know, I was emotional, but somebody helped me get a copy of the warrant. In any event, do you remember, was it after the fact? Was it after the raid happened on your house? Yes. Okay. Do you remember who you spoke with at the time the raid was happening and the warrant was being executed? Who was the individual from the sheriff's office that you might have had a phone call with? Randy Walters. And at the time, was it your understanding he was a sergeant, a deputy at the sheriff's office at that time? I don't know what he was. You understood that he worked for the sheriff? Yes, sir. Can you remind what all you recall? Everything that you discussed on the phone that day? Was it one phone call? Was it several? Tell me what you remember if you can. Yeah, he was on FaceTime on Angie's phone, and I asked him if I was under arrest. Okay. He said no, and then I asked him if there were any charges, and he said, not as of now. He's going to take the little blunts and the little stuff he found down to the station and see if they wanted to press charges on me. Okay. And then after that, I asked him if he would help me repair my door. That's when he cracked a sarcastic little grin and started waddling his head. He said, we're not required to do that. Okay, and I'll have some questions about the door or the doors, and I want to get specific about that in a few minutes. Okay. But did he mention anything else or did you have any conversations with him during that phone call? No. About damage? No. Once I realized he wasn't going to help me repair my door, there was nothing else to discuss with him. Okay, and at the time you had this phone call, you still weren't home yet, is that right? No. Okay, I believe, if I recall correctly, you were traveling back from home. Was it Chicago? Yes, sir. Back home from Chicago. Okay. So how did you know that the door had been damaged? There's my video surveillance, watching them kick it in, hit my Ring camera outside, smash that, then kicking the doors, all of that stuff. Okay, I'll ask you more questions about this too in a few minutes, but how about the front gate? At the time you spoke with Randy Walters on the phone, were you aware of any supposed damage to your front gate to your home? Yes, because I sat there and watched it. Okay, what happened to the gate that you saw? Well, there's this thing you can buy from Tractor Supply. It helps you have a remote gate, this, that, and the other. Sometimes if the weather's bad, it's raining or whatever, and I don't want to get out of my car every single time. Sure. So it's what they did when they came, they came, with the whatever, with the search that never should have happened in the first place. They bent the gate back, and they could have just pulled the pin out of the thing and came in. But, they bent it back out of shape and out of warp to the point where it didn't work no more. So is this front gate something that was accessible by like a key code or a swipe mechanism? A remote. A remote? Yes, sir. Okay, so you're saying they could have bypassed, obviously they didn't have a remote when they arrived there. Right. It's one of them little clips. It's like a bobby pin that women use. You can just pull that little clip out of the thing, and then the thing pops off the gate, and you can just swing the gate open. Okay, do you have any reason to believe that somebody who you own the gate? Yes. But any person off the street who didn't own the gate, who wasn't familiar with your front gate, do you have any reason to believe that they would know about being able to remove the pin? Yeah, they all do. They all do? Yeah, it's common knowledge. It's a gate, Some people have a gate and don't even have a fence. A gate is just you letting yourself and everybody know where your property begins, and this, that, and the other. Fair enough. Yeah. Would you agree not everybody has a front gate to their house, right? Not everybody, no, sir. Would you say you're probably one of the few in Adams County that probably does have a gate? A lot of people have gates in Adams County. Really? Yeah, if you drive around here, if you drive down from 32 around down 47, a lot of people have gates. Nice gates. Nicer than mine. Understood. And regardless, you noticed at the time that they caused damage to your gate by forcing entry inside? Yes. Not having evidence to even do a raid in the first place, then coming over, tearing up my gate, kicking in 2 sets of doors when they could have kicked in 1, disconnecting my cameras, stealing my money, all of this came with them. And let's talk about that. You said a couple of times now, your belief that there was no information or no reason to execute the search in the first place. Is that fairly accurate? Right, yeah. They could go down to City Hall or someplace down here that can let them know I don't have a basement in my house. So that was just an excuse to kick in my doors and vandalize my place and steal my money. Okay, so I don't have no basement. I don't have any kidnapping victims. There's no secret Scooby-Doo passageway to nothing. You know what I'm saying? Sure. And then after all this vandalism and damage, they were unapologetic about it, which is inhumane. So you've referenced a number of the allegations that were included in the warrant. So let's take a look at it if you don't mind. So Mr. Mosier says, we'll mark this, I believe. I'm just going to continue the same numbering from last year if you're okay with that, everyone. Mr. Osborne says, where did they stop last year? Mr. Mosier says, I believe we stopped at 7, so this would be Plaintiffs Exhibit 8. Mr. Foreman, I've handed you what we're going to, and then the court reporter says, do you want me to mark this? Mosier says, yes, you can mark them for me. Reporter says, yeah, I can, just you've got to give me a second to catch up with you. Mr. Mosier says, I can do that. So then they mark Exhibit 8. David Osborne says, this is also, there's 2 versions of this floating around. One version does not have page 2, which is the first page of the affidavit. One version does. This is the version that is complete. Klingler says, thank you. Mosier says, are we good? Court reporter says, uh-huh. So, all right. Mr. Foreman, I'm handing you what has just been marked as Plaintiffs Exhibit 8. Take a look at this. Please take your time. And my first question is just going to be, have you seen this before? Okay, I haven't seen this. Never? This is like a description of my house. Sure, and it's a couple of pages, so make sure you flip through. And I'm asking you about the document collectively to see if you see it. I'll represent to you that it's a search warrant and accompanying affidavit that was signed by the judge. Yeah. But what my question is going to be is, do you recall seeing this as a copy of that warrant you told me you had gotten your hands on at some point? He said, I wanted to look at the warrant. I just looked at sex trafficking, drugs, something, and yeah, I looked at the charges, I understand. I know everything that happened, so okay. Well, turn to the second page of that if you would. If you humor me, and I'm not going to go line by line, I promise. I just have a few specific questions. I believe the second page references what's called a CI, or a confidential informant, towards the bottom. Yes. Do you see that? Let's see, close to the bottom? Yes, I think it's numbered number 1 of the numbered affidavit. Yes. Okay, and do you see where it's starting to talk about a confidential informant? Yes. And they did a knock and talk visit with that person. Okay. Do you happen to know who that person was? Yes. Okay, who was it? Tasha, I believe her name is Chambers or Chamblin or something like that. How do you know Tasha Chamblin? I'll represent that's the name I have. Chamblin. Okay, yeah, I used to have a fling with her. Okay, so you were romantically involved with her at some point? Yes. Were you back in the time of August 2022 involved with this person? No, she would steal stuff, and she stole my mom lives on the G Road. Okay, and my mom orders some kind of makeup from, it's a lady called Mary Kay or something like that. Sure. So I pulled up to see my mom one day, and the guy down the street told me that a lady in a Mustang grabbed a package off my mom's front porch. So, like, my mom was in a real bad car accident, so I was a little sensitive and overprotective of my mom. So she stole like some DVDs, and I'm not an old man, but I'm getting up there. And so, like, I appreciated DVD. Especially, like, some of these movies, if I get on Netflix, I can't find them no more. Right. Like, for a long time, you couldn't get Coming to America no more. Right. All right. So she was, like, stealing, like, Harlem Nights and my favorite Eddie Murphy movies. So I took and I didn't like, she stole too much. She stole, like, stuff that meant stuff to me. So I told her, I just broke it up. I told her not to come around my house no more and stay away from my mom's house. You told that to Miss Chamblin? Yes. Okay. All right. And you've already testified, even today. I think you've provided, through counsel, some discovery responses that indicate there's a number of information in this document that's not true. For instance, you don't have a basement in your house, correct? No. You certainly didn't have a dungeon where you can keep people in that dungeon, correct? Right, right. My question to you, I'll start with the broad question. Do you know if there's anything in this affidavit that is true? I mean, yeah, there's a few things. Yeah, I got the porch. I got gravel here and there. And some of the descriptions of my property is true. Okay, and I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to point out just a couple of specific areas. If you could flip to the next page of Exhibit 8, this would be the third page of Exhibit 8. And I'm going to ask you to look down to number 3. You see where I'm talking about, number 3? And then the reporter indicates the witness needs to speak up. And then the attorney says, okay, I'll read for you. Let me ask a question. It looks like you said you were referencing the part, it says Joseph Foreman under Part 3 in Exhibit 8, utilized armed security at all times, stating he has some old rapper from LA doing it. At the time in question, did you have any sort of friend or colleague or acquaintance? No. If I did, they would have been there when the sheriff illegally raided my house, disconnected my cameras, and stole my money. So on August 21st of that year, 2022, you didn't have security personnel working for you? No. Do you now have security guards working for you? No, I don't. Have you ever had security guards employed at 99? No, I've been thinking about it. Okay, and I asked you about the question about that last sentence on number 3. Confidential informant number 1 stated that there is a guard shack on the west side of the residence where security cameras are monitored. Is that true and accurate about your property? Yes, but I was making preparations for a guard, but I never got one. Understood. And, yes, that's the camera that they took and smashed down and never paid for. Okay, is that camera up and running today? No, I got the rest of my house repaired when they ripped it out of the wall, but I forgot. I never repaired the camera that they smashed in front of my house. Okay, and you just mentioned the camera that was smashed in front of your house. Would that have been the camera that was in this guard shack, or is that a different location? Yes. Okay, the same page, but I believe it's number 4. If you look down towards the middle of the paragraph, the confidential informant goes on to state, the entire upstairs of the primary residence at 99 is Afroman's bedroom, referring to your stage name. Is that true? Is that entire upstairs your bedroom? Yes. Okay. The same paragraph, the next line says, the confidential informant also indicated that Afroman has multiple mini garages. I'll stop there. Do you have multiple mini garages on your property? Yes. And you still do today? Yes. Which are utilized to store marijuana and Afroman's brand of malt liquor. Is it Cold 45? Well, that's the name of the malt liquor, but I don't store it in my car garages. Okay, where do you store it? I don't have it anymore. They went out of business during COVID. Okay. So there was none around your property? No. In August of 22? How about marijuana? Did you store marijuana? No. Marijuana is recreationally legal now, but no, I didn't store any marijuana, and the cops that searched my house with the bogus search warrant, they know there wasn't no large amounts of marijuana, nor kidnapping victims, nor anything. Just damage and vandalism to my house and stolen money. Let me clarify something there too, because I think you mentioned earlier that they did retrieve a couple of blunts that I assume had marijuana in them. Yes, but not large quantities. I don't store pounds of marijuana in my car garages. They found like some ends of blunts. Sure. And a seed here and there, that was there marijuana, and I understand your understanding of the word stored. Yeah. So was there some amount, minuscule we'll say, de minimis amounts of marijuana located in several areas of your house at that time? I don't know what diminishes, but whatever. Very minimal. Okay, there was no large 8 tons of marijuana there was ends of blunts and small amounts that I smoke. A recreational smoker might possibly have, but it was just small amounts located in multiple places. Right. I must have rolled 2 or 3 blunts. Yeah. Like whatever. I don't even know. I'm just, they raided my house and tore up everything. And this is what they said they found. I understand. So I'm trying to tell you what I think they said they found. Well, and I'm asking you only what you know. So to clarify, back in August of 2022, I think you're telling me there was very small amounts of marijuana located in your house. Is that correct so far? Not enough to get your door kicked down and your camera smashed and your money stolen and your security cameras disconnected. Small amounts? Yeah, real small. Okay, and were those small amounts located in one place? I don't know. You've got to ask the guys that broke into my house and smashed my camera and stole my money and disconnected everything. So you don't remember exactly where they were. This is my house. I was gone for like a month before they broke into my house and stole my money and disconnected my cameras. Next question. Once more with Exhibit 8. If you flip the page, I have one more question about this. Okay? My question is about number 5 at the top. Mr. Foreman, on Exhibit 8, it indicates the confidential informant stated that you had a large metal building behind the residence where you store cars. Let me ask you, is that true? I have a garage, yes. Okay, confidential informant number 1 also stated she and her husband built a fitness room on the building, which has a false wall. Anything about that? Is that true? Did you have, I think it was Tasha Chamblin, help you build a fitness room on your property? Yes, her and James did it. James, her husband? Yes. Okay, is there a false wall in that fitness room somewhere? There was a compartment I had them build where I thought I might store like my guns and stuff when I go out of town. When I go out of town, people break into my house and the Adams County Sheriff don't come to my house, take reports, or do anything. So I started thinking of other ways to protect what I work for. Okay, so I built it, but I never used it because I figured she and him would run their mouth and somebody, so that compartment in my weight room was built. Yeah. Okay, so that part of the affidavit is true. Yeah, besides the dungeons and the kidnapping victims, that's the one thing that's true. Well, in addition to the other things that we just talked about, you have a garage? Right. Some mini garages? Right. You clarified those things for me. Right. Kind of the descriptions of your property? Right. Just no dungeons and kidnapping victims. Except for that big part. Right. Yeah, no kidnapping victims and dungeons. I understand. Just damaged property and stolen money. Were there any other areas of your house that had those types of compartments as you described them, or false walls anywhere? No false walls. And I should clarify, you don't have to, do anything to get behind this wall. It's just like an open space. It almost looks like where you'd see fiberglass installation installed, like a crawl space. So he says, no false walls. I've got compartments. In my closet, in my sports room, it came like that when I bought the house. At the back of the closet, there's these 2 drawers. They're like drawer compartments. They're like doors. You can probably put underwear or socks or something in them. He says, yeah. So that's at the bottom of my closet inside of my sports room by the bathroom. Is the sports room different than the fit room that Tasha Chamblin helped build? Yes. Okay. And the sports room is closer to your closet, your bedroom area? Yes. Any other compartment areas where you stored valuables, things you mentioned, guns? Well, yeah, I got a safe now. I had to get a safe because the sheriff won't come out and take reports and won't give me a copy of them and then threaten if I call and check up on the progress of the investigation. So I had to do what I had to do for myself without their help and go get me some safes and other ways to take care of my belongings. Understood. Is the information that you provided here false, that you never stored marijuana or money in that false wall? Yes, that's false. You never had cash or marijuana in that location? No, sir. Or kidnapping victims or a dungeon. I understand. We understand about the kidnapping victims and the dungeons. Aside from that, you believe that the Adams County Sheriff's Office should not have relied upon the information included in this affidavit. No. What makes you certain that the officers who received this information should have known that Miss Chamblin was being dishonest or lying? Okay, first of all, you can Google her name, and you'll see several mugshots. It says, okay, first of all, she's like a thief. You can go pull up her record. She's like one of these thieves that they got to do it. It ain't like, it's like she, I think they call it klepto something. She's got to do it all the time. A kleptomaniac? Yeah, and stealing and lying goes hand in hand. They got access to her record. They should know they're dealing with a thief and a liar. So before they go pulling out guns, vandalizing people's properties, smashing cameras, yanking out security systems and stealing money, looking for dungeons that don't exist, they need to do a little more research, And then some judge don't need to be signing off on a warrant, greenlighting, people that beat their wives and, child molesters to come to my house and run around and do all kinds of damage. Okay, you mentioned the judge's signature. Yes. You see that at the bottom of this page here, it's scribbled, but I'll represent to you that it looks like it was Judge Roy Gabbard that signed that. Yes. You don't have any reason to believe that that his signature was not accurate or not authentic, that he didn't sign off on it? No, I'm wondering why he did sign off on such a bogus search warrant. But you acknowledge that it was signed by Judge Gabbard. Yeah, he authorized them to go look for a dungeon that don't exist. He authorized them to come into my house and steal my money. He authorized them to disconnect my cameras and smash everything and leave without apologizing. Yeah, he authorized them to be inhumane. And then the attorney says, I will clarify, it does look like Roy Gabbard, but Roy Gabbard Jr. is the judge who signed it. Mosier says, oh, thank you, DJ. Mr. Osborne. His dad was also judge. Mosier says, I appreciate that. And Osborne says, that's something to clarify in Adams County. Thank you. So, and then Mr. Foreman, if I'm understanding what you just told me correctly, the officers that came to your house on August 21st were acting according to this warrant that was authorized. Yes. So this is really the heart of what this attorney is trying to get to for the purpose of the counterclaim. So, okay, that's all I have for Exhibit 8. You can keep it in front of you, but I probably don't have any further questions about the warrant right now. Let's move on to, I would like to run through in depth the property damage. We've already talked about some of it. What I want to talk about is some of the things I'll identify that I do not believe were included in your complaint against the officers, starting with the CDs. So I'll represent, I think, during your deposition, the first part last year, you were asked about a social media post where you complained about some deputies stealing your CDs. Do you remember that? Yes. Okay. Can you tell me everything you remember about the concerns you had about them stealing your CDs? Well, all I know is, they were going through my CDs, like, where's the kidnapping victim inside my CD? Did you see them reviewing your CDs when you were watching them from your phone? Yes. Okay. Did you see them physically remove any discs from the CD cases? I was looking at, but I just seen them going. I kind of just flipped out once I saw them going through my CDs. I was just wondering where the kidnapping victims was in my CDs. Okay, so when you were watching from the footage that you saw right, the footage that you saw after, you did not see anybody take anything out of those cases. No. After they broke in my house and smashed my cameras and stole my money, I didn't see them steal none of my CDs per se. Now, I think you did testify that sometime after the search, you noticed maybe some empty CD cases. You know what? I have noticed some empty CDs, but I don't want to get petty about it, but I have seen some stuff missing. Okay? But this and that. So you said you don't want to get petty about it, so I'm trying to figure out, are you making any claims against these officers about the missing CDs? I'm not stressed. I'm really focusing on my cameras because I can, whatever CD they stole, whatever, I can get that again. But I'm really focusing on my camera damage, my gate damage, the fact that I don't have a dungeon or kidnapping victims, the fact they didn't even apologize or, offer any kind of help to repair the damage that they brought to my house. And I know, well, look, I like music too. CDs are kind of a small thing, but I value my CDs. I like vinyl too. But if I represented to you, I didn't see anything in your counterclaims against the officers about these CDs. Do you have any reason to disagree? I don't know. I don't think I said nothing about... It's been a long time. They've been kicking the can on me with this stuff, so I don't... but I don't think so. Okay, that's the best of my knowledge because I'm just hollering about the big stuff, which is the doors, the gate, the cash. Well, the fact that I'm a human being and they violated me and they didn't apologize. And he thought it was funny when he kicked my door. He grinned and laughed. That's real cute. Mr. Walters? Yeah. Regarding that gate, your contention, you're making claims against the officers for damaging the gate. Yes, they definitely damaged my gate. Okay, and I know it's been a long time. I know this has been going on for a while. But I don't see any mention of your front gate in your counterclaims. Do you have any reason to disagree with me? I should. And then the witness, I don't have a mention of my gate in the counterclaims. Question. So he's speaking with his attorney. Osborne says, if we may have a moment, counselor, and then they go off the record. Are we back on the record? Question. It should have been in there. The damage to my gate should have been in there. He didn't represent me right. That's why I had to switch attorneys, blah, blah, blah. But they damaged my gate and it should be in my counterclaims. Now, you've since had your gate fixed, is that true? Yeah, after they came and vandalized my house and broke my cameras and did a whole bunch of stuff I didn't ask them to do. After they left my house without apologizing, yes, I fixed my gate. No help, no thanks, and no help from them. How much did it cost you to fix the gate? I don't remember, but I put it in the other one I told his attorney there. Okay, well, isn't it true that you actually had the gate fixed and replaced for free? Isn't it true that I shouldn't have got raided in the first place? And no, I didn't get it fixed for free. I had to pay somebody to come fix it. And then I had to get to Tractor Supply and buy a whole nother setup. Where did this come from? Where is this guy saying that he got it fixed for free? Okay, so I have a question about a social media post that I'll show you in a second. Okay, you posted something about receiving a beautiful free gate by Blue Goose Customs and Fabrications. He says, yes. After they raided my house and tore the gate up in the first place, these people gave me a gate, but I still had to pay to get it put and fixed up. You know what I'm saying? So, and actually, you know what? I actually had to pay him because he was moving so slow and I just wanted to inspire him so it wasn't free. I had to pay him. And I can figure that I had to pay him because he was going to do it for free, but he can't make a living doing stuff for free for me. Sure. So, it was taking him a long time to get the gate, but I wanted that gate because he had a picture of me with two girls and he had a picture of the two sheriff officer cartoons on the gate, and I really wanted that particular gate, but I did pay for the gate. So wait, did somebody make did this small company make a mockery image of the officers hey, I'll help you replace your gate, and then this business owner joins in on the fun, adds the characters to this picture of the gate while saying, hey, Afroman, I'll help you replace your gate. And Afroman's like, I like that. I want to work with this guy to get my gate repaired. I want to see this picture. So he says he really wanted this gate to be the one installed because he had a picture of me with the two girls and he had a picture of the two sheriff officer cartoons on the gate, and I really wanted that particular gate. But I did pay for that gate. See, he's proof that adding humor to stuff helps sales. So, Mr. Mosier, could you mark this number 9, please? Just the top one. All right, Mr. Foreman, you've just described it very well, so I'm going to hand you a copy of, yes, exhibit number 9. Yeah, and I'll represent to you that exhibit number 9 appears to be a screenshot from a social media post. I think it's an Instagram post. Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, so it is? Okay. It's on his own Instagram, so maybe we can find that. So possibly, I don't know. OG Afroman is my everything, so my Facebook, my Twitter, so I'm not sure of where this actually came from. Is that your Instagram handle name as well? Yes, sir. Okay. And it does say, and it's definitely him because the caption starts with good morning, ladies. This is okay. And it does say here, I'll read it to you, at the upper right-hand corner of Exhibit 9, captioned from Afroman, good morning, ladies. The good people from Blue Goose Customs and Fabrications are coming from Texas to install me a new gate free! Exclamation mark. Yes. Is this the individual, the organization, this Blue Goose? Right. This is what they promised me, and so this is what they The picture that they showed me was they was going to do on the gate. Okay, so I was celebrating a little too early, yeah. Okay. So is this picture that's depicted on Exhibit 9 ultimately what ended up getting on your gate? Yes, sir. Okay, so that's there right as we sit here. Yes, sir. Tell me what happened, how much you eventually had to pay to get it installed. I'm not sure, but I think it was around, I don't know, I sent them like $1,500 plus some help to ship the gate from Texas. Okay. And then I'm not sure. I don't remember what I paid this guy from Mount Orab to pour the concrete and hang the post and get it working, really hanging the gate. The guy that you're referencing, was this someone affiliated with Blue Goose or was it somebody after? No, it was just some guy from Mount Orab. I remember Cody. I remember his name was Cody. I don't know his last name. In one of the posts, I thank him. So if you do your homework like you did with this one, sure, you can find the post where I thank him for coming to install the gate. And did you pay Cody too, separately? I did. Do you remember how much? I don't. Do you have would you have, I don't know, receipts, invoices, documentation? No, because see, like a lot of my stuff, like after they came and kicked down my door and smashed it up, I had to start paying neighbors and random people, and people was dictating to me how they wanted their money. So for quick fixes, like to get my house, I had to pay this guy to come up, to tape up, help me tape up the doors and everything, blah, blah, blah. Sure. So like, I don't remember. I was just doing what I had to do to try to live under the destruction that they left my house under. Okay, so Blue Goose created this gate. Do you know who the artist was? The specific artist that created this art? Or was it just, this is the company that provided it to you, if you know? Like, what does the artwork have to do with, like, them raiding my house and, like, tearing up my cameras and stealing my money? I wish we could watch the video of this. That would probably be so funny. I'm not asking about that right now. I'm asking about the kind of the value of the gate. The value of the gate? Yeah, because you've made some claims about damages to you're saying it's part of the lawsuit. I don't see it in the complaint, but I want to you're seeking damages from the officers in your countersuit in this case. Right. And I just want to get some clarity on the value of the gate. So my question is, are you aware, was there a particular artist or person who designed this? Yes. Do you know what was her name? Who it was? Yes. What's their name? Her name was Ayanna Perry. And then they spell it Ayana. And Osborne says, I would never have guessed that. What? So Ayanna, that's like exactly what I would think Ayanna would be spelled like. So Ayanna Perry designed this artwork for the gate? Yes, sir, yes. Is she affiliated with Blue Goose? No, sir. Okay, so did you pay Ayanna anything for the design? Yes, I don't remember. It's been a long time ago. So as I see it, you had a design, you had construction, and then you had installation costs for the new gate. Is that fair? Yeah, now I chose to design the gate, but I had to put a gate back up there. Of course. But yeah, I wouldn't have needed none of this if my gate had been left alone in the first place. So yeah, I had to, to make myself feel better, I took and made me a better gate and do whatever. I did whatever I had to do to fix the damage that they brought to my house. And it is a better, nicer gate than the old one. It is just the frame part. It's because I had an old cow gate. They broke the cow gate. They basically broke the remote thing that helps you open it in and out, Got it. One more question. About Exhibit 9. If you look at your caption, I'm assuming this is under the OG Afroman post. Midway through that paragraph, you say, and you may be cheeky or sarcastic here, so that I want to ask you. All right. I want to thank the Adams County Sheriff for volunteering their free labor and getting that old, ugly, raggedy gate out of the way so God could install this new, beautiful gate. All things do work together for the good. Do you see where I've read that? Yeah, that was total sarcasm, because I'm not thanking some guys for messing up my gate, smashing my video camera, stealing my money, running all through my house smashing cameras, messing with my computers. I was being totally sarcastic. But I do have a better gate and all things working together for the good as far as that. But I was being sarcastic. I do not thank them for stealing my money, kicking down my doors, and then being inhumane and not apologizing to me after they found out there was no kidnapping victims, there was no Dungeons and Dragons, and no 80 million kilos at my house. Let me focus on the damage to your property, because again, like I said in the beginning, that's really what my focus here is today. Yeah. Do you remember stating previously, and it was almost a year ago, But I think you stated in your testimony it wasn't all that much destruction to your property. Is that still true? That much as far as like the house didn't collapse, but there was some destruction. And then there was just the fact that they was unapologetic. They was inhumane. Like, when I do wrong, I tell people, hey, I'm sorry, I thought this and that. A lot of officers had told me, hey, I'm sorry, we had a guy that fit your description, and we just had to make sure, boom, 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 pop, pop, pop. But, it was some damage. They damaged my house, and then they was unapologetic about damaging my house, and sarcastic and laughing. Sure. Yeah. So are you more concerned in this case about your treatment by these officers, more so than the actual damage? Yeah, I didn't need the whole experience. I didn't need them kicking down my door. I didn't need them. They're here to protect and serve. They never protect and serve me. And the one time they do come, they come and tear up my gate, smash my cameras, kick my door in, steal my money, when they're supposed to be law enforcement enforcing the law. They're in my house breaking the law, so I don't need none of that. Okay, I understand. None of it. But I wanted to see if you can. Are you able to quantify? Is one more important than the other, or... No, the whole thing. The whole thing. The whole thing. Not protect. I pay taxes to these guys. Not coming and taking my report, not giving me a copy of the report, then listening to some crackhead around the corner and ripping up my gate and smashing my cameras and stealing my money. I don't need none of that. And Osborne says, can we take a short break? I need to use the restroom. So they go off the record, and then they come back on. All right, Mr. Foreman, after a short break, I was running through some of the items of damage. We talked about your front gate. I think I have a clear picture on that. I wanted to move on just briefly. It looks like when you were communicating through Mr. Walters with the deputies as the search was happening, there was at least some cooperation. I mean, I think you stated you gave them permission at once to break open a key box. Yeah, to get them out of my house. Okay. They wasn't leaving. Brian Newland was leaving and saying, I need to get in that case right there, and all that kind of stuff. So I told them open it up. It was nothing, So they had to break my key box. I told them so they would get out, because if I don't cooperate with them, I think that's our, yeah, and all that junk. Okay, so you just helped them out so they could leave? Yeah, I said, hey, go ahead and look in there so you can get out of my house. Steal my money and get out of my house. Go beat on your wife. Were you talking to Brian Newland at any point in this? No, I wasn't talking to Brian Newland. Okay, could you hear any of the officers from the surveillance video? I mean, was that audio equipped as well as when you were watching them execute the raid? Could you hear audio of the search, or is it just video? My home is just video. Let's see. Okay, so you couldn't hear anything that was happening or being said by the officers during their search. No, but I know what they said. I got all of the footage of everything they said and did. Well, what do you mean by that? What footage are you referring to by saying you heard what they said they did? Yeah, the body cam footage is public property. Okay, their body cam footage? Yeah. But as for your surveillance system, no sound, no audio. No. All right. Did you have a safe in the house back then? Yes. Did you have any conversation with them about letting them into the safe? Yeah. And how did that go down? All right. After Brian Newland stole my money, he wasn't going to leave my house until he got into my safe, so he could steal some more money, So I remember I told my ex-wife, which is the last person I want to tell my code to my safe combination, but anything to cooperate with them and get them out of my house and stop them from doing more damage. I told her to open up the safe and let them see it, because they was going to pull my safe out of the floor and cause even more damage. So before they did more damage than what they did, I told them to open up my safe and look in it. Okay, and you communicated that through Angela? Yeah, because Brian Newland was on the side of her. We need to get in the safe, making noise, all of that junk. Okay, do you know Brian Newland that day? No. Okay, so you didn't know him till you reviewed your footage and everything that you posted came out after the search, right? Yeah. Okay, I want to ask you again about the doors, and I just want to get very, very specific. So I apologize if some of this is the same ground that you already covered. Is it 2 doors that were knocked down and damaged? Yeah. They could have broke down one. They went and kicked in my front door, but Brian and that other Cooley dude couldn't kick in one. So they ran around the corner and went and got a battering ram, and they smashed up 2 doors instead of 1, and that is one of my favorite parts of the clip. He like kicks and he's just like, okay, causing more damage. So 1 is the front door, and then the second door was somewhere on the side. No, they kicked in both of my, what would have been guard, not even a guard shack, just somebody to let people in and out the gate without me having to come downstairs. Okay, so like they kicked in both the doors of my Amish house instead of just kicking in the front of the back door. That's what I wanted to know. So this is a little Amish building that was, right, the front post, so to speak. Yes, sir. Okay, so are these double doors right next to each other? Well, you go through one, and I had to cut the back out of the place so I could make a breezeway and another door to get into my actual house. Okay, so it's 2 doors in lockstep, one right after another. Well, yeah, it's a little building, so it's like this door you walk through about 10 feet and there's another door. Okay, all right. We're both completely knocked down flat on the ground. Yeah, yes, tore out of the frame. Like, not only do I need the doors, but I need this, you see that little that little trim part? Sure. Like, you need the whole casing. I had to get all of that put in. That needs to be fixed and touched up? Yeah. Okay, did you have someone come out to look at the doors and the trim? Yes. Okay, and did they repair them? Yes. Okay, do you know who you used? Like a regular civilian, like no official person, just whoever I could get fast enough to get it up as fast as possible after they came unannounced and tore my house up. Someone local? Yes. And you probably have an idea of where I'm going. Do you have any idea of how much it costs to fix? I don't remember. We're talking about, and they've been kicking the can on me with this for like 5 years. So we're talking about 2 or 3 years ago. This is 25. This happened in what, 22? I don't remember. Do you have any idea, maybe this is a tough question, how much those doors originally cost? I mean, you put in that Amish house as an add-on after you bought the place, right? Yes, sir. Do you have any idea how much those doors originally cost? I don't remember. I got them in I had all of my notes when I did the first deposition with Mr. Bob. Okay, you ended up selling both of the doors that were damaged. Isn't that true? Yeah, no help and thanks from the Adams County Sheriff that put me in position where I had to sell them in the first place. But making up for the mess that they brought to my house, yeah, I took a deep breath and did the best I could, and with the help of God, yeah, I sold it. You sold it like using social media, your social media channels? So this is so funny. He's like, hey, I'm selling the doors that Lemon Pound Cake and them kicked down. Could you please mark this as Exhibit 10? So Exhibit 10 was marked. Mr. Foreman, I'm handing you what's just been marked as Exhibit 10. Take a look at Exhibit 10 and I'll make it easy and represent to you. It looks like this is a screenshot of, I think it was a video from social media, because you can see there's a little volume button at the bottom of the screen that's muted. Yes. So it might have been TikTok, it could have been Instagram. Yes, I'm not quite sure. But it looks like it was from your county, maybe your account? OG Afroman. And again, if you look at the post caption in the top right corner, OG Afroman writes, "The door the Adams County Sheriff kicked down is sold to the gentleman from Victoria, British Columbia, Sean Springer, for the amount of $2,100. Do you see where I've just read that to you? Yes. Did you sell that door for $2,100? Yes, and no thanks and help from the Adams County Sheriff Department. You know, I don't want them kicking my door down every day just because I can utilize my talents and repair the damage that they brought to my house." Oh, of course you don't. But yes, under the circumstances, after they tore up my house, yes, I did what I could do, and I raised the money to build the door back that they destroyed. Did you sign the door or anything like that? Yes, I did. And then the phone rings. Do you need to take a break or anything? No, sir. Okay, all right. And did you receive the $2,100 payment from the gentleman in British Columbia? Yes, I did. Sympathy money. Okay. So, Mr. Mosier, I'll mark Exhibit 11 as well. The same topic. Mr. Foreman, Exhibit 11, looking at Exhibit 11, Mr. Foreman, very similar to Exhibit 10. It looks like another social media video announcing. It looks like you're announcing that you're going to be selling the second or one of the 2 doors, right? Yes, sir. And this one, you have a photo of the door? Yes. Or at least it appears the damaged door is on the screenshot. Do you remember posting this? Does this appear to be true and accurate? Yes, yes. Okay, and I'll represent to you that the second damaged door, was also sold for about $4,000. Yes, sir. No help from the Adams County Sheriff's Department or the city. Nobody. Everybody helped damage the place, didn't help me doing what I could to put my home back together after the vandals and thieves left my house. Yes, I got some sympathy money and ran a bid, and people, they helped me out with that door. Sure, so collectively, I'm not one for math, but wouldn't it just be $6,100? It looks like you made like over $6,000 to sell these 2 doors, is that right? Yeah, that was a good start towards like over 20,000 worth of damage, so it was going towards a good cause. Well, let me ask you that then. So are you saying that your guesstimate, 20,000 worth of damage, is that the doors or only and everything? That's a rough guesstimate, because I got they was kicking in my walls in my closet looking for fairy tales and Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. So there's damage to the closets and baseboards and everything. It's going to, I'm going to say to be a rough estimate, like I said, a rough estimate, maybe under 30, but I've got to, because every now and then I see something else that I didn't see, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me narrow it down then, and maybe this is difficult to do, but let's just talk. I'm doing this category by category so you see. So the 2 doors and the trim around those 2 doors. Right, yes. You receive $6,100 for selling the damaged doors. Yeah, that will help me repair because, you see, this is a long court proceeding. Can you imagine my house still being ratty and torn up while I'm sitting there and talking with everybody, right? So the key is to get my doors back up and to recover from the damage they brought to my house as quick as possible. But I'm trying to ask, maybe I should just ask it very directly. Do you have any idea how much you spent to fix the 2 doors, just the 2 doors and their trim? I don't, but it should be in the deposition I took with the Bob. With the Bob. Okay, I don't want to misquote myself. It's been a long time. I understand. You asked me questions, 3 years ago that pop back up on me. There's a possibility I could tell you something different. I don't remember. And I'm only asking you to answer what you know now. Yes, so it should be in the first deposition with Bob. Okay, maybe it's the same answer. But do you think you spent more than $6,100 to fix the doors? I spent more than $6,100 to fix the total damage to my property. See, all of this is an attempt to fix all of the damages that they brought to my house. So, it didn't get, come on. It didn't take $6,000 to fix 2 doors, but, well, that's what I thought. But my camera system, the gates, the damage that they did to my closets, all of that, is way more than $6,100. And again, my point is, would you agree, you actually kind of made a profit on the doors? Well, my point is, I wouldn't have made a profit or had to do any of this or even be here if they had not raided my house illegally. Not even illegally, whatever. Listening to crackheads, whatever. Fictitious warrants, whatever. If they hadn't come to my house, none of this would. All of this is Judge Gabbard and their fault. None of this is I'm sitting at home paying taxes to them so they can come rip up my gate, smash my cameras, steal my money, and do all this stuff. So all of this is their fault. So I'm just improvising and doing what I can under the circumstances they put me under. Mr. Osborne says, calm down now. And the reporter made a request to remove a glass? Is he picking a glass off the table and going, that they put me under, boom, and put the glass down? All right, Mr. Foreman, let's move on to the closet. My next item on the list. And we talked about this a little bit. And this is where I think they're talking about they were trying to pry they took the floorboard, the trim off, and then they're trying to pry behind the green paneling to look behind. So I reviewed your last testimony as well. I think you stated that there were some baseboards in your closet that were literally torn off the wall. Yes. And you mentioned to me kind of drawers located in your closet. Well, they pushed in the wall. They tried. They pushed in and messed up my wall. I gotta go back and look at the clip. I can get the clip for you later. They pushed in the wall and messed up the baseboards, tore up a few things in my closet. Sure. Have you had those fixed and replaced? Some of it, but there's still... I seen a big baseboard part down today, and it was something else, that I missed in all of that. And I take it, you mean, are you still traveling a lot, working a lot, outside of the home a lot, so maybe you haven't had time to fix everything? Right, I haven't had time. I've got to pay bills and everything. Sure. I've got to pay taxes to the Adams County Sheriff's Department so they can break in my house and steal my money. Well, I'm going to ask about that in a second. But I also want to know, so you don't have a total of the cost to replace the damage to the closet. I have it, it should be in Bob's deposition. Okay, I came with all that stuff while it was fresh in my mind. Sure, you spoke to Bob, Mr. Klingler, a lot about the cameras and the DVR system, the digital video recording system. Is that right? And then there's an affirmative head shake. You mentioned earlier today a Ring camera. Yes. At the front door? Yes. And that was damaged during the raid? Yes, sir. Did they rip it off the wall? No, it was kind of hanging off on the porch of my little Amish house. So they took something and hit it and knocked it off of the roof. You saw them when you were live streaming from your phone that they hit it off? No, I could just look and see it. Okay, from footage? Yeah, they hit, like the way my cameras was positioned. I couldn't see everything, but the Ring camera, you could just see it getting zapped out. Sure. So they smashed it. By the way, you went home after the raid? You got home after the search warrant was executed. You reviewed all of the surveillance footage that you had, right? As much as I could before I got tired and passed out. Sure. And then you made some contents off of some of that footage, right? Yes. Okay. And you provided it to some news outlets, yes? My social media, and then the news outlets reached out to me from reading my social media. Understood. Have you provided everything that's in your possession from your surveillance footage, your own residential surveillance footage, to your attorneys in this lawsuit? Yes, sir, as much as possible. There's always something, but... So the Ring camera located to the front of the house. Was this affixed to, the Amish shelter? It's at the side of the house. Okay. And it was right, they probably thought I was upstairs, and they didn't want me to see them or whatever, so they broke it, I guess, before they kicked in the 2 doors instead of 1. Okay, now, did you make it apparent to Mr. Walters, when you were speaking to him, that you could see at the time what was happening from your system, your surveillance system? I didn't tell him that. I just asked him if I was under arrest, and if he would help me repair my door. And after he started laughing and giggling, there was nothing else to talk about. So no point during that call or conversation did you say anything like, hey, I can see what you're doing. Why are you damaging my stuff, my camera, my doors? No. They came to destroy. I kept it brief with them. I said, hey, am I getting arrested? And he said no. I said, will you help me fix my door? He said no. I told him thank you. So besides the Ring camera on the shelter on the side, was there any other actual cameras that were destroyed, damaged? I had to get my house rewired. After they disconnected, they did something to the camera system. So I had to pay a dude. That might have been my most expensive cost. Okay, rewiring the whole system? Yes, sir. The network, and you made a song about it. I think in the song, I wanted to be careful here, you say disconnected. They disconnected. So my question is, did you see anybody was it a matter of unplugging a cord, or... Did you see someone cut the wire? Yeah, Lisa Phillips, under the supervision of Kenny Dickin and Randy Walters, was just sitting there. They were sitting there holding flashlights, egging her on, telling her to cut and mess up my wires and pull them all out. And they left my DVR sitting on the couch with all of the wires everywhere and a whole bunch of holes in my house and whatever else where the DVR goes. So you came home, literally, you saw cut frayed wires? Yes, they cut my DVR and messed up my camera system, to get specific, but my camera system don't work thanks to them. Okay, so did you see Lisa Phillips have, wire cutters or scissors? Something, she had a knife, she had some metal object, and she cut off my camera system with that. And there was a disconnection because you lost the feed, right? Lost the feed, plus my DVR was just laying on top of my couch in the studio with wires hanging everywhere from it. You can't say for sure what or how she used to disconnect the wires. No, I just know she broke in my house with everybody else and messed up my video camera system, and it cost me a whole lot of money to get fixed. That's what I know. Do you have a ballpark idea how much that cost to fix? It should be in the deposition with Bob. I can get that to you. Okay, is it up and running today, the camera system? Yes, no thanks to nobody. I got it going myself. Is it the same... What's the name of the platform of your security system? I mean, is it one specific company that you utilize to operate the cameras, or is it just home equipment? I forget what he calls his company, but it's like a guy. He has a private camera company. I can get that to you later, too. Let me see if I can refresh you. PYS Surveillance Solutions, does that ring a bell? Yes, yes. Okay, I'll just represent to you. I don't think I need to show it to you, but in some of the social media documentation that you provided to me through your counsel, it looks like there was a TikTok post where you were kind of advertising for this PYS surveillance solutions. And that's the company that kind of operates or provides the equipment for your home surveillance system, right? Right. Did you receive any sort of benefit or kickback? No, I didn't. I was just happy to get, besides police officers not taking reports and protecting and serving me, and me paying taxes to them, the next hard person I have is a camera dude. Like, they're like the worst people, I mean for me, because I'm just now getting it. I wasn't in the camera game until I came in and the cops don't call. They get mad if you check up on an investigation. Because remember, they told him if he kept calling that they would address him. So they say, so when I moved on and just started watching my own stuff, it was hard for me to break into the camera game, find out who does it right, who can install it, who can help me keep it going. If something messes up, who can come repair it? Sure. So he was like the first guy to give me a good, fair customer break. So out of that appreciation for him, I just did that. Got it. And you had already utilized him before because no. The guy that I utilized, that's why he took so long to come fix stuff. People would be done broke in my house and my camera system ain't working that I paid for, and you know what I'm saying? What was the point of getting the camera system? So I found this guy. He was quick, assertive, came up here, got my stuff back up and running, and I had to pay like everybody else, but I just appreciated good service. I probably already asked this, but the DVR, the cameras, the monitoring surveillance, is all fully functional today? No thanks to nobody that came and destroyed it, but I know, but it's working? Yeah. No thanks to nobody, but yeah, I got it going. So if somebody else breaks in my house and the sheriff don't want to come take a report, I got something to go on. Mr. Klingler asked you pretty extensively about the cash, the $400 cash shortage that you claim was taken from the sheriff's office deputies. The lady at the sheriff's office admitted, not just me claiming it and whoop and hollering, but admitted to it being $400 short, blah, blah, blah. Sure. And you talked about there's that Fox News report. You were on camera. The lady that you mentioned, the representative from the sheriff's office, was also on camera and acknowledged that the cash count that was being returned to you was $400 short, right? Yes, sir. Did you ever become aware of any sort of investigation by a state agency? Yeah, they got some other crooks too. Oh, some police were investigating some police, they're buddies. Their buddies come over, and I guess they can hear when a 5 turns to a 10, and when a 10 turns to a 20, and they deemed it as a miscount. All right, so I think you're referring to the Bureau of Criminal Investigation. I don't know whoever. I don't know who. I think it was the Claremont County Sheriff. Okay, they had them come investigate or something like that. But you think there was some corruption in that investigation? I know it is, because you can't... What does a $5 bill sound like? What does a $10 bill sound like? So yeah. You had also testified you'd seen some body cam video that you think purports to show an officer hiding something during the cash count. Is that true? I've got some. You can look at it. I've got mine, and then you can look at his. Your surveillance video? Right. Okay. Now he's taking money out of my suit, you can see a couple of stuffs real quick, you know what I'm saying? So something appears to go from his hand to inside, a pocket? While dealing with the money, several, a couple of times it looked like. Is it fair to say you can't see conclusively on the video somebody stealing cash? Yeah, it's fair to say that, The lady at the sheriff's station said it was $400 short from sealed bags. One officer is supposed to count it, and then another officer is supposed to count what he counts to make sure that, the fact that it was short at the police station was the biggest flag. And then I'm suspicious about 2 or 3 times, like, I seen him dealing with my money, and bam, bam. Sure, so, a lot of people don't deal in cash anymore, but some people still do. Do you have any idea it's probably an unfair question, but do you know how much cash you kind of keep on hand in your house at any given time? Well, I try not to do none of it because the sheriff's department, they don't investigate burglaries. They take confidential information from burglars. Sure. And then they raid, people that don't commit crimes, houses with the crackheads' information. So, what was the question again? I was asking if you had any idea of how much cash you regularly keep in the house. Oh, I don't keep any cash in my house no more because I've been burglarized more in this town than anywhere in my life. So I keep my stuff out of my house that somebody is going to break in and steal. So I don't have any cash in my house. How much did you back then? Oh, I forgot about a show I did with Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa. Yeah. The man paid me 5,000 balance. I put it in my suit pocket, and I just kept drinking and laughing and having a good time, and I forgot about the money. So I'm kind of glad they found that because I'd forgot about it. But it was, I came home and took it off and hung it up and forgot I had $5,000. But I don't have, because people break in my house so much, I don't have cash lying around. Sure, so you actually changed that practice. You usually don't have cash since this all happened 3 years ago. Well, and even then, I mean, I'm a thousandaire, not a millionaire. I'm a thousandaire. So, even then, I don't have thousands of dollars just laying around they found $5,000. I mean, well, I'm not a bum, So, yeah, I might have some money. Okay. A car doesn't cost $5,000. A house doesn't cost $5,000. $5,000 really ain't no money. Sure. A couple of odds and ends here. You have some social media posts, and you've also mentioned today. You talked about, you're a law-abiding taxpayer. You're a tax-paying citizen. True that you've also acknowledged in your discovery responses you haven't filed a tax return since 2018. Right. Is that true? Actually, I think I have filed my 19 and my 20, and I think I got 21 on deck right now. I'm trying to catch up. Over the past year you've gotten those filed? The past 3 or whatever. I've been chipping away at it, me and my CPA. We've been chipping away at it. Okay, I saw another post, again, odds and ends questions, referencing an album that you have coming out entitled The Lawsuit. Yes. Do you still have an album dropping soon about this lawsuit or inspired by your lawsuit? At the time I did, there's a side of me that's kind of over this whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. But they're suing me, so here we go. Is that album still happening? I'm not really pushing, Not really. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things I've procrastinated and forgotten about. I understand how that goes. I got high. Mr. Foreman, let me take just a couple of minutes just to gather my thoughts and look at my notes. I may not have any other questions for you. I may just have a couple, and then we'll be getting you going, okay? He says, amen. And then they go off the record. So Mr. Mosher comes back on the record and says, those are all the questions I have for you today. I appreciate your time. Some of these other folk may have some questions for you. I'm not sure. And Klingler says, I don't have any questions. Osborne has nothing. And then they advise him of the transcript reading. So Joe, with the transcript that you have the right to read it, what that really means is you can't change it. You've just got to make sure this nice lady did her job correctly and everything is transcribed correctly. Most people waive because the reality is they don't make too many mistakes. Okay, Mr. Osborne, so usually we just waive it, but you do have that right. Witness says, okay, I'll waive it. We've got video footage and everything, so... And then they end this at 11:28. So that was the first deposition of that day. I think next up was Cooley. Let's see how long Cooley's is. Yeah, and Cooley's must be next because it says 11:30 a.m. Okay. His is 38 of these quarter pages. Are there exhibits? How long is this index? All right, so we can go through Cooley's today. And that might be the only one. So we're not going to do lemon pound cakes today, unfortunately. I'm excited for that one. I really want to get to that one. Where's my Justin Cooley picture? There we go. We got Justin Cooley ready to go. Also, hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. We've got a lot to read. These depositions, I thought they were short because the first deposition we read was like 160 pages, but it was single page. So when I saw all the others at a quick glance were like 20 to 40 pages, I'm like, oh, cool. We can read like 4 for the same amount of time it takes to read one. And then I realized it's the split pages. So how long before he releases? I mean, I don't know if he'll release release them, but I'll request them once the timeline for the appeal runs up. So if there's no notice of appeal and they miss their 30-day window, I'll just ask for them. So, and we've got, oh, thank you, Dizzy. Oh, thank you, Judy, for the tip over on Tip Jar. Shout out to Judy. Yeah, I hope you guys join us if you can on Tuesday. It's going to be a really fun time talking about this case, especially knowing some of this background. We've got to get the rhythm down. Judy, I'm going to come on there. I want to get the complete recitation that Afroman has laid out. You came to my house, you kicked down my doors, you disconnected my cameras, you don't apologize, you're inhumane. And he's gotten that down every time he repeats it. He has the same, like, rhythm to it. Thank you so much, Judy, for the tip. Come hang out with us on Tuesday, you guys. Let me get you the link. It should also already be saved in the Creator Friends playlist in the description. Also, all of these documents, there is a folder with the filings, depositions, and the little probable cause affidavit that we looked at. That's in the description as well. Oh, Judy, the thumbnail is so great. Guys, go look at this thumbnail. It's a great, great thumbnail. So take a second, guys, hop over there, hit that notify me button, and come hang out with us. It's going to be super fun. Thank you again, Judy, and thank you for hanging out with us again today. Let's see. Yeah, so the frauditor troll slayer, people were getting me with this. You know, he's not a nice person. He hit a woman. And then I saw that context. And it's actually somebody coming up, like, grinding on him against, like, the backside of his leg. And he immediately, on instinct, turns and swings. And it is a hard hit. But he apologized for it and said that he'd already dealt with a same pestering male fan over and over that whole night. So, I mean, if somebody came up to me while I'm on stage and grinded up on my side of my butt cheek, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do about it? So people are fully free to evaluate that clip how they want to evaluate it. Of course, I think it was a very hard hit and very unfortunate. But, I mean, I can't say that I wouldn't do the exact same thing if I was on stage and felt somebody on me like that. So, I don't know. So, but I do think it's, you know, originally I saw it reported that he hit and choked a woman out at a concert, and I think that was misreporting. But yes, he does hit a woman on stage. That was just, from her account, just on stage to dance with him. And she says that nobody told her she had to get off the stage. So that's the context surrounding there. We've got, let's see. Yeah, JSTV talking about, I think this might be the appeal on the split of costs. I think that's ridiculous that they want to, because even if you look at the dismissed lawsuit, yes, he filed something, it was dismissed. But the costs associated with him filing the countersuit versus the cost of the primary litigation that went all the way to trial, where there's jury costs, there's the court reporter costs, there's all these additional things. How do you say that that's equitable cost division? So, yeah, I don't know. Just a lot. Oh, man. So, guys, we've got, let's see. We've got Justin Cooley. I've got him up on the screen so you remember which one it is. Good times. We've got, let's see who's present for this one. Since this is it's a video deposition, that's why. Ugh. Let's see. They're recording it. It's the same day. Yeah, so I guess they all hung out all day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, and they have the right to be there. They have the right to be there. Everybody except Randy so far has sat in on all of the depositions. So this will be the third deposition. The first two were with Afroman. This one is now with fellow plaintiff, but they're all there. So when Afroman's saying all of those things, all of those responses, this cohort's sitting there in the room. So Justin Cooley, a plaintiff herein of lawful age. This is August 6, 2025 at like 11:30 a.m. He's sworn in as if being cross-examined. Can you state your full name? Justin Cooley, Justin Donald Cooley. They spell his name. Do you mind if I call Justin during this? Well, that's fine. And this is David Osborne. This is Afroman's attorney. Justin, have you ever had your deposition taken before? No, I have not. Okay, with a deposition, there's some rules that we usually talk about so that every person being deposed sort of knows what's going on. Okay, so usually what we do is we tell you, you have to give oral responses. Okay, because we're being transcribed, and while this nice lady is very talented, she cannot transcribe head shakes and everything. I understand, so I'll ask you to answer everything verbally. Okay. Additionally, one of the other things that we ask is that if you need a break, you're more than welcome to have one. Just let us know. However, what we usually do is, if a question has been asked, we ask for the break to start after the question is finished. Let's see. Okay, so if I asked you what color the sky was, oh no, this is the Woody question. So I asked him what color the sky was. You said you needed a break. We'd ask you to tell us what the color the sky was. Understandable. Okay, other than that, if you need some time to talk to your attorneys, I'm not sure which one, but if you need to talk with them, we would take a break, leave the room, and let you do that, okay? Do you have any questions? I do not. Okay, so Justin, how are you employed? I'm a deputy with the Adams County Sheriff's Office. How long have you been with the Sheriff's Office? A little under 5 years. I think it will be 5 years in November. So you would have started around sometime in 2020. Around, I don't remember the exact dates, but yeah, that's around the right time. Okay, and did you attend the academy before that? Yes, I did. Which academy did you attend? It was in Brown County. I was actually in a kind of specialty program. Oh, I was a police officer in Kentucky for years. I was a part of an accelerated program to transfer my commission from Kentucky to Ohio. I attended classes in Mount Orab, Ohio. I don't recall the school and everything that it was, though, that it was through. It was through some technical center at Brown County, I believe. I'm going to back up for a second. So, you worked for the Adams County Sheriff's Office for 5 years. Correct. And then before that, you were an officer in Kentucky for 5 years. Correct. What agency did you work for in Kentucky? Well, the Maysville Police Department. So, you would have been working for them around 2015? Correct. And prior to working for them, did you attend an academy for law enforcement in Kentucky? I did. And what was that academy? That was a state-ran academy. It's called the Department of Criminal Justice Training, so DOCJT is how it's commonly referred. I received the Police Officer Professional Standards, or POPS, certificate, which is the equivalent of Ohio's OPOTA certificate, giving you police powers in the state. It's just funny he says this, giving you police powers in the state, when he's the one that ends up saying, and Afroman, you were using your position of power. So when you complete the training at Mount Orab, did they convert that over to an OPOTA certificate? Yes, they did. It required a full audit of training, continual training. It was a complete professional audit. And then they send me classes to attend, and then it was my responsibility to attend those classes. Mount Orab was just the closest thing to me. So would it be fair to say that you've been a licensed police officer or peace officer in the state of Ohio since around 2020? Yes, in this state, correct. Do you maintain your certificate in Kentucky? No, I do not. Okay. You mentioned an audit of continuing education. What do you mean by continuing education? Well, in Kentucky, you're required to take continuing education. It's part of an incentivized program through the state. You actually receive compensation to continue your training. It's all free. You can sign up for classes you want. If your supervisor approves it, it's free training unless you fail it and take a remedial course, and then you pay for it. Now, you said Kentucky. Do they have that for Ohio? I'm sorry? Do they have that continuing education for Ohio? Yes, they do. So what continuing education have you taken since 2020? I don't recall. Well, that's good. What have you learned since 2020? I don't know. I can give you a few. I can't give you a complete list. Well, just what you can remember. I was part of a task force that's called the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. We combat predators that prey on children online. Part of that training, we started a program, expanding it. We also went to the premier event for Internet crimes against children. It was at the Microsoft Center in Washington, D.C., where we conducted for approximately a week, attended different classes, And those counted as continuing education? Yes, they did. So is it fair to say, if you don't complete continuing education, your peace officer certification would lapse in Ohio? I'm not sure what the requirement on that is, honestly. And about when would you have completed this online predator class? November, I believe it was. I'm not sure. I can't give you a specific example. I believe it was November of 2024. And then Deputy Estep, because they're sitting right there, says it's probably November. That's an approximate guess. And so when you started in 2020 with the Adams County Sheriff's Office, what was your duties starting out? Well, just the regular duties of deputy sheriff. I started on night shift, working the road. So writing tickets, responding to calls? Yes. Okay. And did you receive any promotions from the Adams County Sheriff's Office over the course of the 5 years? Promotions is in the form of rank? Yes. Or assignments? Well, let's do one and then the other. Let's start with rank. Okay. Rank I have not. Okay, what about assignments? Well, I've accepted a few temporary assignments doing Internet crimes against children's task force investigations, and also, when we can allow coverage, we attempt to do narcotics interdiction. Insert, interdiction, using confidential informants, working drug investigations. Did you receive training on confidential informants and these drug investigations? I have not. So when we talk about assigned job duties, are you saying that as a person gets more experience at the sheriff's office, that they get more duties versus an increase in rank? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I volunteered for extra duties because I showed interest and I recognized that the job needed to be done. So they don't assign them. They assign them on a voluntary basis. Well, I think it's a mixture of competency and willingness to do the job. I don't think it's as simple as what the question makes it seem. Have you worked with confidential informants before? Yes, I have. When was the first time you worked with a confidential informant before? I don't recall. It was in Kentucky. When was the first time in the last 5 years working for the Adams County Sheriff's Office that you worked with a confidential informant? Say that, reword the question. I'm sorry. I must not have understood something. That's okay. And that's probably something I should explain. One of the questions we usually explain to witnesses is, if you don't understand a question, do exactly what you did, just ask us to clarify. Okay, so you've worked with Adams County Sheriff's Office for 5 years now? Yes. So starting in 2020, when would have been the first time that you dealt with a confidential informant here? I don't recall. There would be a record of it, but I don't recall the exact date on hand. But those records would be a confidential record on the date that I went through the informational packet that we used to employ or use confidential informants. There's a standard, once a confidential informant is selected, that I follow. I could not recall what the first date is. Okay, so when you say informational packet, can you tell me about this packet? Well, it's just a questionnaire packet. You fill in the name, you ask them various questions about themselves. It also includes a short questionnaire where they ask various questions about, are you aware of this situation or that situation? But the majority of the packet is like an acknowledgement about entrapment. It's an acknowledgement about what they are and are not allowed to do. And it's also an informational packet about that person. Well, this may sound extremely stupid, and I do apologize. What's the purpose of the packet other than entrapment information? What do you mean? Well, why would you ask them questions, are they aware of things and such? Why would you ask them questions like that? I mean, it's part of your job is to ask people questions if you're going to talk to someone. I think you need to fully understand the gravity of the situation you're working with so you can come up with the best resolution, or the best decision, I should say. So how does one determine an indicia of reliability on a confidential informant? Well, I think that depends on the confidential informant. So what if the confidential informant is like a serial burglar? Man. So I think it depends. It depends on how someone that ultimately shows interest in being a confidential informant, someone that shows interest in being a CI is not always something they're going to work off charges or something where they're looking to aid in the investigation. Sometimes we get people who just walk in the door and say, I see a lot of bad things going on in my community. I want to help. This is what I know. This is what I can see. You notice how he steers this himself. The question is just, how do you determine the reliability? And he's like, I know everybody expects that it's just somebody trying to get out of things, but every once in a while, sometimes there is just one guy that walks in and volunteers for the job who's like clean as a whistle. So sometimes we get people who walk in the door and say, I see a lot of bad things going on in my community. I want to help. This is what I know. This is what I can see. And if they want to sign up, I'll put them through questionnaires, and whatever complaint they have, they're going to help us in addressing the problem that they raise as a community member. So it's just distancing yourself that the vast majority of the time you're relying on somebody that has some motive or reliability issue and you know it. So this is Justin Cooley that we're reading. Oh my goodness. So we've got, he says, okay, sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, that's fine. What about a person that was a suspect in a crime? Do they become a confidential informant? Well, they can be if it's approved by the prosecutor's office. Under the way I operate, I always seek approval from the prosecutor's office and the victim of a crime if they are a suspect of a crime. So, would it be fair to say in your policy, everybody knows what's going on with the confidential informant? No, absolutely not. Everybody does not know what's going on. That's the idea of confidentiality. The idea of what I'm trying to say is there is a process to this, to the usage of confidential informants. Okay, so would a confidential informant have been approved by the prosecutor's office and everything prior to... I'm not saying that's what's required. I'm saying you asked what my process was. I'm explaining my process. I'm not explaining the process as a whole. You just said there is a process, and now it's your process and it's not the whole process. Nor do I think that I really, at this point, I could quote the policy on it. However, the policy was reviewed and approved and spoke with the supervisor so that what we do is adhering to the policy. When was this reviewed and approved? Whenever we started working our first informant. I had done it in Maysville, so now we're back in Kentucky. I understood the policy in Maysville. I wanted to familiarize myself before that I ever start to do the same type of work in Ohio. I wanted to make sure that I'm in adherence with the policy and law. Okay, so is it fair to say that Adams County Sheriff's Office has a written policy in regard to confidential informants? Yes, it does. Was this policy in effect in 2020? Yes. Is this policy contained in the employee handbook? I'm sorry? Will this policy be contained in Adams County Sheriff's Office employee handbook? Well, the policy is available in a binder in the squad room. It's also known that it's available on the computer under a place we all commonly refer to as the G drive, Policy and Procedures. So, do you mind if we talk a little bit about search warrants? Is there a written policy with the Adams County Sheriff's Office on how to get a search warrant and what to put in an affidavit for such? I don't think something like that would naturally be necessarily governed by a policy. I don't recall. You just put whatever you want in there. But I would also, if you could, are you asking, is there a definite policy that if you look up search warrants, you'd be able to find it based off of search warrants that is dedicated to an entire section in the policy handbook? Is that what you're asking? If I'm a new officer and I don't know anything about search warrants and I'm wanting to see what the policy is for the Adams County Sheriff's Office, is there a document I could review to bring me up to speed on that? That I don't know. I know that policy. I know that search warrants are referenced in the policy, but I'm not going to answer definitively whether or not there is a policy specifically for search warrants. I do not know the answer to that. Okay, you said it's referenced in the policy. What policy are you referring to? I mean, it comes up. That is an issue in law enforcement that is addressed multiple times because it's a normal process. Is it a normal process that's taught in the academy? I'm sorry? Is it taught about in the academy? It's talked about in the academy during multiple times. It's talked about from a tactics standpoint, depending on the academy. Let me clarify this. The training I received, I won't speak to all training. I have received training on tactics on how to execute it for officer safety. I've also received training in the legal requirements of a search warrant legal process. Okay. And then during the training, we were required to write legal paperwork so we could understand how it's structured and how it's used. Okay, if I asked you, have you ever heard the term knock and talk? Yes, that's a common term, yes. What does that mean for those not familiar with it? For a knock and talk? Yes, it just means making contact with somebody. Okay, but I would like to expand. That doesn't have one definite definition. What that means is that one officer using that lingo talking to another officer using that lingo, we need, hey, let's make contact with somebody. That doesn't have any other meaning than let's make contact. Okay, so if I'm reading a search warrant and it talks about knock and talk, that's just the officer, that's common lingo. Common lingo to mean you just make contact with somebody? Well, in the way that I use it, but you're talking about slang here. You're not talking about Webster's definition of the term. I'm relating it as I use it in my profession. So then they reference the search warrant, Exhibit 8. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Plaintiff Exhibit 8. I just want you to take a few minutes to become familiar with that. How familiar would you like me to become with this here? Have you seen this before, that document? I've never read this document. I have seen a document. I'm not going to speak to the authenticity of that, but I have seen what I believe to be a valid search warrant for his residence. Okay, when you say his residence, whose residence are you referring to? Joseph Foreman's, I'm sorry. So on August 21st, 2022, were you on duty? I was not. Oh, okay, so I would like to clarify that. I was not on duty, I was on vacation. Okay, if that is the date of the search warrant, let me clarify this further. If you're asking me specifically, I don't remember the dates of this, nor to this point have I ever personally reviewed this document. The date of the search warrant for Joseph Foreman's residence, I was not at work. I was at home. I was asked to come in to assist with the search warrant. Okay, so did you want me to hang on to that? Yeah, I just want to clarify a couple things. You would admit that the date on the bottom is the 21st of August, 2022, right? Correct. Okay, so if I refer to the search warrant, or if I refer to the date of August 21st, we're referring to the same thing. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So you were on vacation at that time? Well, I was off work. I believe I was on vacation. The exact reason I was not at work, I believe I was on vacation. It could have been a scheduled day off. I don't really remember. Okay, well, you're at home. Who called you to come into work? I don't recall. Okay, I'm going to ask you a stupid question. Do you know if it was a male or female? I don't. Do you remember when you got that call? I don't remember. Okay, it would have been approximately, I would say, within an hour to an hour and a half prior to the execution of the search warrant. Okay, so you get this call to come in. Can you tell me what happened next? What do you do next? Well, we had a short meeting at the sheriff's office. During that meeting, we discussed who was going to take what position in the search warrant. Just kind of a brief about the situation. A pre-ops planning brief would be the best way to sum it up. Okay, who was running the meeting? I don't recall. I was late. By the time I got there, people were already kind of waiting on me. I got briefly filled in by somebody. I don't remember. And then shortly after I arrived, we went ahead and executed the search warrant. What was your position tactically during the search warrant? Should we go watch his position? Let's go check out his position for the search warrant. We'll just watch it real quick. Let's see. This is Justin Cooley.
Ram up. You got ram. Bring the ram up. Entry team right here.
This is them. This is them going through like the Amish / guard shack thing. But yeah, that's Justin Cooley. His assignment was the front door. He tried to kick it down, even though they had a ram that he could have gotten to use. He didn't go get the ram, and by the time he's like, get the ram, they already went in through the side doors. So, so we've got, what was your position tactically during the search warrant execution? The front door. So when you say the front door, tell me about the front door that is directly facing the road, out in front of the residence. After. Does that clarify my statement? Well, yes and no. So the front door facing the road, when you say that that was your station, what was your job duty there? Just to secure the residence. Just make sure no one came out? Correct. No, I'm sorry. We were attempting to make contact at the front door. As I recall, someone did attempt to force entry. I don't recall if that was me. He blocked that out from his memory. He does not want to remember what we just watched. I don't recall if that was me or if that was the other officer. Once they advised that we were forcing entry, whoever was running the operation. It was immediately apparent the front door had something against it and it was locked. And by the time we were trying to figure out how to do this, we heard that they had already made entry through a side door, I believe, is how it was worded. This is hysterical. He knows he tried to kick down this door because he's like, there was something behind it. Like, he's trying to justify why whoever it was that was trying to kick down this door would have a struggle bus time trying to get this door kicked down. Well, there was already something behind it. And then I believe someone else already made... You remember exactly what happened. So it would be a fair statement to say that while you and another officer was at the front door attempting to make entry, other officers made entry through the side door? Correct. However, I believe the initially contact was attempted to be made through the side door. We weren't getting a hold of anybody. I think at one point we decided to not, or it was requested. I don't recall the exact dynamics of it. However, it's all recorded on the body cam footage. And you were wearing your body cam that day? No, what happened was where I was on vacation, on the outside, I did not have my body camera. However, once they made entry into the building, they asked for me to assist in the search. I requested a body cam footage, or somebody's body camera on scene that was going to stay outside the residence. I was not going to enter the residence without a body cam, and that was documented in our CAD system. Did you ever enter the house and participate in the search? Yes, I did. Okay, so you obtained body cam when you entered. Before I entered. The way it was set up, was a few people were going to remain outside for scene security, and then a few people were going to go in and search. They asked me if I could go in and help them search. Prior to going in, I requested a body camera from another deputy, and once I got that body camera, I walked inside and assisted with the searching. So when you walked in and assisted with the search, what door did you walk through? I believe the side door entry that was forced through. Okay, so part of helping with the search, 1, what were you looking for? Well, there's several things listed from my understanding of the search warrant. However, I will clarify that during the search, before I went in, when I was called in, I had nothing to do with this investigation. What I was advised during pre-ops planning, very briefly, was that there was marijuana and possibly a juvenile at the residence. I didn't know any other facts than that. I knew that was the 2 things that we were possibly looking for. So now as he's kidnapping kids is the briefing. So when you say marijuana, you were looking for like a marijuana cigarette? Well, I don't know what was the exact probable cause was for them. However, that was listed as an item to be searched, as I recall. Okay, the amount was never specified. Okay, so you don't know how much marijuana you were looking for, just that you were looking for marijuana. No, I mean, they knew enough to get a probable cause of a search warrant. I just believe they acted in good faith, and I done my duty as a law enforcement officer to assist in a search warrant. What I'm telling you is, you're asking specifics about something that I was never involved in, and I feel it would be dishonest to answer that because I don't know. Okay, well, you mentioned a juvenile at the residence? Right. Can you tell me some more about that? About the juvenile? Yes. So I don't recall where exactly I heard this. A juvenile's name at some point was mentioned that may be being held against her will at his residence. That's all I knew. I knew nothing else about it. I'm going to ask you a stupid question. Do you remember the juvenile's name? I don't. Now, you mentioned marijuana was part of the stuff you were looking for. What is the standard amount of marijuana that is normally, a search warrant is normally obtained for? I'm sorry? Let me rephrase it. So if I was going to get a search warrant to search for marijuana, what's the minimum amount of marijuana I need to get a search warrant? I mean, I would think that would be at the discretion of the judge you're asking to sign it. Okay, but if you're asking if, at the time, I could get a single search warrant for a single marijuana cigarette. I don't think that's ever going to fly, if that's what you're asking. Okay, there has to be a better description of during the affidavit for the search warrant. So when you went in and assist with the search, looking for the marijuana and the juvenile, where did you search the house? Shoot, where did I search, or where did I go in the house? Because I think that needs to be clarified in that. Because there was parts where I walked through the house to make contact, to figure out where they needed me next. That did require me to walk in different rooms of the house. The only room in the house I recall searching is, there was a bedroom, and in that bedroom, I want to say, there was a lot of shoes. It seemed to be just kind of like a big walk-in closet. It was very neat, well organized. I don't know if it was used. I don't recall if it was used as a bedroom or if it was kind of like a walk-in closet. Okay. And then also next to his bedroom, there was a small room and suits. There was a lot of suits that I assisted in searching. This may sound like a stupid question. Why would you search suits for a juvenile? Well, it's also listed as drugs on there also. Okay. So anywhere you're going to search would be anywhere that what is listed in that. I'm here to assist in a search looking for drugs. So basically, guys, if they were saying they were looking for something that's like the size of me, and that's the only thing the search warrant's for, you can't just go look in little nooks and crannies, because that wouldn't be a reasonable, permissible place to search for something that couldn't even fit in such a place. But since they have just this blanket marijuana thing, and marijuana can be very small, they can search in all these little teeny places. So, yeah. Hey, Barbara. Barbara's like, it's called a joint. It's just called a joint. Just say joint. Just say joint. It says, I'll search anywhere that I believe drugs can be hidden. I don't think that by your statement that would narrow the search of that search warrant down to where a human could fit. I think that's inaccurate and leading. So, what drugs were you looking for? Marijuana. Okay, well, this may sound stupid, but marijuana is rather bulky, isn't it? I guess it is, depending on how much you would carry and what your personal definition of it is. I'm sure you can have a semi-truckload of marijuana, or could hide, a small amount in your shoe. I think that's subjective, and, well, let me clarify what I'm asking. So you said a search warrant for a single marijuana cigarette probably isn't going to fly. Okay. I would imagine that you would be looking for larger quantities of marijuana, which would be rather voluminous. Okay. And I would think that you wouldn't find those in the suit pocket, because I wouldn't think a suit pocket could hold enough for that. So that's why I'm asking why you could search for the suits. And remember, this affidavit starts with this confidential informant. They go talk to her at her house. They find, like, what would be a garbage bag full-size amount of weed, like 2,100 grams and change. And something that would be a third-degree felony amount in Ohio. And then they find this little thing that says Afroman. And she's like, well, he has all this. He stores all of this weed in his garages. He has all these huge amounts of weed. So the framework, what David Osborne's trying to get at here is this. You guys know that this wasn't just to find residue. This was, you were going in there expecting to find weight, and you used what this confidential informant represented to you to represent to this judge that you were going in there to find serious weight. And here you are looking every single nook and cranny. And unfortunately, they're not going to be like, oh, well, this warrant, you shouldn't have been doing that, because technically the warrant does say you can look for marijuana. But that is what I think David Osborne's trying to get at here. So Cooley says, I think that's also rather incorrect the way you word that, like asking why you would search the suits. Osborne says, please clarify. Well, because you can hold marijuana in a suit. That is physically possible. But not in volume? Well, I think that's subjective. I think that you were asking me why I searched for marijuana. I had a legally signed piece of paper from a judge asking me to search for marijuana. Okay. And it physically is possible to hide marijuana in a suit. So did you search everywhere it's physically possible to hide marijuana? Everywhere I did, yeah. Did you ever find a basement? No. Do you know, well, let's back up, strike that. Can you list the name of every officer that took place in the search? Oh, shoot. No, I don't think I could accurately. I think that's well documented elsewhere, and I'm not going to guess at it and be inaccurate. Well, do you know how many officers took place in this? Several. Why did it say took place instead of take part? He says, I'm not gonna guess and give you an incorrect answer. Well, let me ask you this question. Okay, is every single officer that took part in that search a member to this lawsuit? Is every member that was participating member of law enforcement currently in this lawsuit? Is that what you're asking? That took place in that search warrant. Who took place? Is now part of this lawsuit? So he corrected him on the place and part. Yes. I do not believe so. If there was more than 6 officers there, would that sound correct? I don't remember. It's been so long ago. I'm not going to guess. Okay, did you ever write a warrant on the search? That I don't remember. I don't recall. At most, it would not have been a full report. That wouldn't be common practice in law enforcement. The usual process for that would be if we are both police officers and we go on a call together, and that report is your staff, and I'm just assisting, you would do the report, and I would write a supplemental narrative in your report as to what my involvement was in that investigation. So the officer that was running everything would have made the primary report, and then, if asked, you would have done a supplemental. That would be the normal process. I'm not going to say that's governed by policy or it's not done other ways, but that's the normal process, yes. So when you say normal process, would that be the same as best practices? I would probably say, yeah, that would be a best practice. Did you have any contact with the security system at the residence? Contact as in, did I physically touch any of it? Yes. Or what are you asking exactly? I remember seeing cameras everywhere. I don't recall ever touching anything. Did you participate in any other searching other than the room with the shoes and suits? Did you search anywhere else? I think it was I don't believe so, but I'm not going to say that I didn't. It's been so long ago. I don't want to claim that I remember every fact of it. I remember without a doubt searching those 2 rooms. There may have been other searches. I don't recall, sir. Okay, was there ever a juvenile found at the residence? No. Was there ever a sex dungeon found? No. Did you search any of the outbuildings? I may have, I don't recall. I remember seeing outbuildings. There were several outbuildings with cars in them, and I remember being at one of the outbuildings and when they were being searched. But I don't recall if I took part in that or if I was just standing there. Is there a policy with the Adams County Sheriff's Office in relation to damage of property during a search warrant execution? I don't think there's one specifically for that, no, sir. Is there any kind of unwritten policy with the Adams County Sheriff's Office on how to decrease property damage during the execution of a search warrant? We clarify that? What do you mean? So if there was a choice between a glass door that you could shatter and go in, or a wooden door that you'd have to bust the frame out, is there a policy with the Adams County Sheriff's Office that would tell you which door to choose? No, not that I've ever seen, no, sir. Is there any rules in place on the steps that officers should take to discrete property damage during a forced entry? Well, as an officer serving your community, you should use your best judgment. If I find a reason I have to enter somewhere lawfully, I'm going to do it in the best way to reduce property damage, giving my best judgment. But if you're asking if there's specific policies dictating that, I do not believe so. I think it's usually just best practice and the integrity of the officer making the decision at the time, which is also subject to review at any time. What do you mean by subject to review? Well, I mean, you have a supervisor. Everything you do, things will be reviewed. It's pretty self-explanatory. So after the execution of a search warrant, a supervisor will review what happened and sign off? No. What I'm saying is that as a police officer, everything you do is subject to review by your agency. That if I do something wrong and someone files a complaint, it is the duty of that agency to review what had happened. What I'm saying is when I force entry into somewhere, that we don't do it in such a way, or at least, I'm not going to speak to everyone, but I do it in such a way that it's going to limit the footprint of me being here. What evidence did you find or evidence did you collect during your search of the suits? None. During the search of the suits, are you talking about just specifically when I was searching the suits? Was anything recovered? Yes. I think one of the pockets had money in it. I don't think any drugs were ever found. This may sound stupid for someone like myself. Okay. How is evidence handled and collected by the sheriff's office? And Osborne's saying that because he used to be a prosecutor. So that's why he's saying it should sound stupid. So then he asks, what do you mean by that? Well, let's say that there was a bomb. How would it be collected? It would depend on the type of evidence. Okay. So I think that I can't, your question's so broad I can't explain the handling of it because that would be all encompassing. If you have a more specific question, I'll be happy to answer it. Let's say a firearm. A firearm? Yes. So if a firearm is seized as evidence, it is immediately cleared on the scene. When you say cleared, you mean checked. Yes, all of the ammunition is taken out. Once it is ultimately collected at the scene, it is taken and placed in a box that's an evidence box we have specifically for firearms. The firearm is, once placed in the box, secured and placed into our evidence. Is there any chain of custody for it? Well, there's evidential chain of custody. And tell me about that. What do you mean? Well, in reference to the firearm, what would you fill out? What would you sign? Who would sign it? What would you, and then Cooley says, what you would do is you would sign on your evidence, and you would have an intake sheet. A sheet that explains all of your evidence that you have. Also, we take a copy of that report and we put it with the evidence submission sheet, and then we place it all in a security locker. The locker, once it's placed in there, is locked. Only the evidence technician has a key to it. And then when she comes to work, she sees the locker's closed, she immediately opens it, retrieves the report, and then she enters it in our property room. When you say evidence tech, the lady, who is that? I'm sorry, that's Dee Rosillo. And I say, Dee Rosillo? Yes. And Dee has been doing that for a number of years? I don't know. She's been doing it since I've been here. And long before that, I'm sure. Okay, so prior to 2022? Yes. So we've talked about a firearm. What if it is marijuana that's found? What's the steps with it? Well, placed in an evidence bag, sealed in the same process, placed in a secure evidence locker. You'd put a copy of the report with it, and then that all goes into that secure locker. Okay, it's the exact same process. However, what I was trying to emphasize was the handling on the scene can differ. If it's something hazmat, if it's biological, or if it's something like that, we would, of course, handle it differently. That's what I wanted to clarify earlier. Okay, how is money collected and processed into evidence? It's collected. It's counted, it's put into a specific money bag. The money bag will indicate the amount of bills and the dollars that it has. Through operational necessity, what you can also do is, if you do not have the specific money bags, you can take a normal evidence bag, and in the comment section, you just fill in the same thing as what I do. So he would write the amount, and he would write how many 10s, how many 20s. I don't know what the policy dictating that is. However, I've done it this way for years, and it's never been an issue. So when you say it notes the number of bills, am I correct in thinking if I'm looking at this and there's a wad of cash in there, it's going to say $1 bills, 5, 10, $10 bills, 20, correct, yes. So it's going to list exactly how many bills of each type. Correct, with a total number at the end. So something like $1 bills, 5. 20s, 5. Yes, sir. Total would be 105. Yes. You count the total number of bills. You don't count the total number that's on the end. It's how many $20 bills do you have? How many $10 bills do you have? And then you put the corresponding number next to it. And then at the bottom, you put the total value of the money at the bottom at the total section. And what I'm saying is that we have bags for that. However, sometimes we'll use other evidence bags, but the general practice that I do is I would put that information in the remarks section on the evidence bag. On the standard evidence bag, or on the, on the standardized evidence bag, if I do not have the currency specific type of bag that I usually like to use. Okay, you mentioned different bags. What's the difference in the bags? Well, just various purposes. You have different size bags. So you have bags for different things according to evidence handling. We have paper evidence bags, we have plastic evidence bags, we have paint cans. I mean, it just varies for the appropriate handling that you need for whatever type of item that is. Okay, what else did you do as part of that search? What do you mean? Did you ever talk to Miss Foreman? I did not, no. Did you ever talk with Mr. Foreman? No. About how long were you at the residence taking part in the search warrant? I don't recall. That's all documented in the CAD report. I'm not going to guess at it. When you say CAD, what's CAD? Miss Latners. Shout out to Miss Latners. It stands for Computer Automated Dispatch. It's a system that we use to get dispatch to calls. It also is our way of documenting on the scene. So if we have anything, I can tell my dispatchers, hey, can you add that to the CAD? So if I wanted to know how long each person was there, I would look at the CAD. Yes. And that is kept in the normal course of business by the Adams County Sheriff's Office. Yes, it is. So did you have any involvement in this case after the execution of the search warrant? After? No, I didn't have any. Other than helping with the search warrant, I had nothing to do with it. So it's fair to say you had no involvement prior to the search with this case. Correct. And you had nothing after the search warrant. Correct. So your sole involvement is what is with the search of the house. Yes. So when did you become aware of posts made by Mr. Foreman? Probably the next, almost immediately, I don't recall. It was almost immediately. I know within a couple of days after the fact, if not the next day, we started receiving hundreds and hundreds of phone calls a day. You know, people just trying to disrupt services. Tell me more about these calls. So you going to talk about the tree in the forest that we heard? Oh my goodness, guys. These calls. Will we find out that they actually did something for these like threatening calls that they were getting? Air quotes. Also, shout out Sheriff Chuck in the building. Gifting 5 memberships. He's counting on the lines. He's saying, number of gifts, 5. He's documenting. He's doing all the documentation. Thank you so much, Chuck. Good to see you. Hope you are doing well. Yeah, I'm waiting for this because this is I think my favorite clip of this trial is, and it was missing from the WCPO9 footage, but that clip where Justin Cooley, this guy, is like, oh, and it was scared. We had a call about a tree, and I was scared that it was a setup. And then he starts speaking directly to Afroman from the witness stand. He says, you. And he's like, you're using your position of power. Get all these people to come at us. And Afroman from his table says, you shouldn't have threw a fake raid. And I think it was probably my favorite moment of the trial. So that's this guy. So tell me more about those calls. Well, it was just calls. People wanting to voice opinions on matters. Opinions. However, they would continue to call our dispatch and interrupt our day-to-day operations. There were several times that dispatchers received, 20 or 30 calls at a time and tried to explain to people they had a complaint the right way to complain. But they would immediately hang up, block their number, try to call the administrative line back, and just be verbally abusive to our dispatchers. And these were just random citizens. I don't know who they were. Somebody was calling. So when did you first become aware of social media posts by Mr. Foreman? I don't recall. I mean, I don't want to use the term, I want to use the term immediately, but I don't know if it was immediately. It was shortly after. Okay, so if I asked you to point to one social media post that refers to you, which social media post would you identify? It would have been a video that was recorded on a cell phone. It shows my back looking through some suits that were hanging in the room. I believe that post was also picked up by, that recording was also used by places such as TMZ magazine. So TMZ would be the publisher. Okay, is that the only post you could refer to? And it's the footage of the raid. Well, I mean, are you asking what post that I saw was I offended by, or what post showed me specifically? Well, let's dig into that. Offended. When you say a post that offended you, what post? Okay, well, I'm asking you to clarify your question. Did you ask what post was physically of my body, or what post did I find personally offensive? Because the way you asked it did not clarify your question, because you changed it. Okay, well, we can do this. Okay, so which post did you find personally offensive? All of them. All posts. Okay. Did you find the use of that image by TMZ offensive? Yes, I did. So you say all posts. Do all of the posts that you found offensive refer to you? No. How many refer to you? There was several. I'm not going to guess. So as part of this lawsuit, you have asked for damages in relation to your reputation. Yes. How has your reputation been affected by this? Because every time I went on a call for a while, and it continues on, you get remarks about it. You get people calling you derogatory names. Things on the scene that would seem to go south for no particular reason. So have you lost your job due to a change in your reputation? No, I have not. Have you been kicked out of the church or anything because of your reputation? No. What economic damages have you suffered due to your reputation? Because as a police officer, people look at you and they figure out quickly if you're a man of integrity. You stick it out. I had a very good rapport with the community, and this showed a negative light in my reputation as a deputy sheriff. Osborne says, so the answer would be no economic damages. I'm sorry? You have not suffered any loss of, I lost reputation. I lost my ability to do my job in certain aspects. Now, if you're asking if I lost my job, as I'm getting fired for police misconduct or something negative to that manner, that doesn't make sense, no. What I'm trying to explain is that, as a deputy, when you go to people's houses, you want to maintain a good reputation. This hurt my reputation. It made it harder to do my job. It made it harder to speak with communities. It made it harder to de-escalate situations within the community. Okay, can you give me examples of that? Examples as in specific examples? Yes. No. But what I can tell you is that the fact that people are calling in and now we're going back to the calls. The fact that people are calling in, disrupting our communication center is an exact example of what you're talking about. The reputation, you're trying to make it specifically about me. What I'm saying is that it wasn't just a loss of, or it wasn't just a matter of being angry or offended. It was a matter of, I physically couldn't do my job because my reputation suffered in this. It sounds like a skill issue. So give me an example of when you couldn't do your job. What I'm saying, though, is this. It's a matter of public trust. I don't recall specific examples. If it's a matter of public trust, it's a matter of public commentary. I don't recall. We got through all these readings so calmly, and this is just making me mad, this last page. I don't recall specific examples. You're asking me to recall something that happened years ago. What I'm saying is, when you go into the community and people are yelling things at you, that is a loss of reputation. That ruins your credibility as a police officer, and that does harm the public trust that allows you to do your job proficiently. You're switching the order here. The loss of public trust is where this commentary is coming from. The commentary isn't causing the loss of public trust. You're getting this commentary because people are questioning if they can trust you. And you're mad that they're vocalizing that. So he says, okay, so you were not able to do your job efficiently, and you still kept your job. No, you're putting words in my mouth now. Oh. What? That ruins your credibility, and that does harm the public trust that allows you to do your job proficiently. Okay, so you were not able to do your job efficiently. No, you're putting words in my mouth. What's the difference? I physically couldn't do my job. Up here. How is that putting words in your mouth? So he goes on, he says, what I'm saying is that damage that I claim was that the reputation was harmed. I never claimed that it stopped me from doing my job. I physically couldn't do my job. I never claimed that it stopped me from doing my job. I physically couldn't do my job. What? What I said was it made it harder to do my job and it was unnecessary. Okay, but you can't provide me an example? What do you mean? These are the same officers that get on the stand and mince words so they can testify in whatever manner they want to testify to in the process of helping somebody prosecute somebody, some type of criminal conviction. This is the way people play with words. What do you mean? A specific? Yes. We're talking about something that happened years ago. And what I'm talking about is every time, you get out of your cruiser on a call somewhere and 3 or 4 people yell, stuff about this case at you. As soon as you get out, you're verbally, attacked by somebody that has nothing to do with an active incident. So when I get out on scene at an active incident, my attention has to be drawn from the active incident to people screaming down the street until I can figure out that it's just somebody yelling about that incident. But the thing is, that's unnecessary to begin with. I shouldn't have to have my attention drawn from an active incident where someone is calling police for help and I've got to worry about somebody screaming, 2 or 3 blocks down. How are you pulling up somewhere and you're hearing this? So these people are 2 or 3 blocks away yelling at you when you're supposed to be responding to wherever you just pulled up at, and they're 2 or 3 blocks away. For a while, it became this thing that people would use against you, which, they have the right to their opinion, yes. But what I'm saying, though, is that it shouldn't get to the point where I can't physically do my job. Oh, he's changing his wording here. Look at this. Where I can't, it shouldn't get to the point where I can't physically do my job. Or, I'm sorry, where I can't focus on doing my job. Yeah, because you already said that and then played stupid and said you never said that. And then you almost said it again. Nothing to do with. So people telling you their opinion about what they've learned about the case, right, yelling at you, is your loss of reputation. It's part of it, yes. Well, what's the rest of it? Well, the work stress became too much to deal with at times, it was ridiculous. You'd come in and I would have 3 or 4, people calling in, cussing at a time and tying up our dispatching center, and then people would call for services and we would look and we would have 3 or 4 calls pending because people would say, "Hey, can I speak to Deputy Cooley? I thought this was a legit pending call for service." And then 3 or 4 times in a row, I'd call the number like, "Hey, this is Deputy Cooley at the sheriff's office. I had a message. How can I help you?" And then I started getting cussed at about this whole thing. Did you save those messages? No, I didn't save any of them. It wasn't on a recording line. It was on my work cell phone. Why would you call these people with your... It doesn't make sense. Like, if he's calling someone back, if these dispatching centers aren't sending it to his cell immediately and he's calling these people back, I don't know, something about this just doesn't seem like it's believable to me. I don't think this is believable. You said work stress. Tell me about this work stress. What do you mean about this work stress? Well, you said that the stress at work was increasing, and because you had to deal with this, and so I would like to know more about the stress. Well, I mean, I don't understand how to explain it more. We receive 50, 80 calls a day of people just, "Hey, let me speak to Justin Cooley." And then I would take a tongue lashing about something. And then 20 minutes later, somebody else would call in, "Hey, can I speak to Justin Cooley?" And I would take another tongue lashing about something. I go, stop and go get something to drink, and somebody would make comments as they walked by just to make me mad. It's a stressful event. Okay, should you see any use of the services provided to the officers to help with stress? What services is that? Psychiatric services, seeing a doctor, a counselor, someone to speak to? Well, I was having trouble sleeping for a while. I don't remember the exact date. I did go to a doctor about not being able to sleep. She did provide some medication temporarily, but I don't remember how that would fall in conjunction with this. I don't recall the timelines, but I believe that's the best way to accurately answer your question at this time. So are you saying that your trouble to sleep is based on the events? Well, I think it's based on a lot of things. This is a major contributor in it. I'm going to give it exclusive ownership, but this was a major role in this. Okay, when did you go see this doctor? I don't recall. I'd have to check with who was the doctor? It was at let me think here. It was at the little clinic right across from Wendy's. Is that Southern Medical Center or is that Adams County? I don't recall. I think it's Adams County. It's like that little new outpatient clinic. By the car wash? Yeah. Or it's right by the tobacco shop. Right across from the tobacco shop. You know what I'm talking about? Yes. I believe that's Adams County. It's a little outpatient clinic there. I spoke to a doctor. I believe her name was Heather. I'd have to look at my paperwork, though. Did you discuss with Heather anything about the search? Yes, I discussed that there was stress going on at work and we're involved in an incident that was, escalating my work environment, and I was having trouble sleeping. And she prescribed me a couple of medications. Okay, did you get an official diagnosis? I'm sorry? Did you get an official diagnosis? No. Have you provided a copy of the medical records to your attorney for disclosure? No, I haven't. Have you lost any work in relation to this? No. Are you alleging in any way that Mr. Foreman was calling and making these verbal tongue lashings you're referring to? No, I never once said he was, or inferred that he was. I said that somebody was, and I didn't know who. It was never at any point in time meant to be accusatory. Other than Heather at the clinic across from Wendy's, have you seen any other doctors in relation to this event? No. So you talked about getting tongue lashes. Has anyone ever cussed at you while you've been on duty prior to 2022? Oh, you know they have. It's just part of the job in some aspects. But what I'm saying is, this was not a normal aspect I was used to dealing with. Did you ever ask the sheriff to provide training on how to deal with such an event? I never thought that would be, one, be an option, and two, no, I never spoke with him about it. However, I had at the time been actively working on a chaplaincy program to assist officers with this type of situation. I already reviewed policy. I've given the walkthrough to potential people interested in the program, but no, as of right now, there is no official program that has the sole purpose to do what you are asking. Justin, this may sound like a stupid question. Are you married? Yes. Are you claiming damages in relation to your family as part of the lawsuit? I'm sorry? Are you claiming damages in relation... So in other words, are you claiming damages related to your wife or anybody else? Not my wife, but yes. This incident has caused some friction between me and my father. He was also present. So Sean Cooley's lemon pound cake. He's sitting in the room here. That would be Sean Cooley. This friction was never anything too personal. It just kind of, it got to the point where every day I would come to work and somebody was either harassing me or harassing my father, and I felt that in my soul that it would be unprofessional for us to continue to work with each other because of the undue stress of the situation. Now, I want to emphasize that I love my father. This was never anything personal. This was an issue that I felt that I could not maintain given the current state, that it's too hard to sit back and watch people just belittle your father every day. And I felt that that was a professional move. I've made multiple requests since that to not be scheduled to work with my father. So I'm going to ask for clarification on this. So when we're talking about your stresses and everything, we're talking about people calling in while you're at work in your official duties. Okay, yes. So we're not... And what I was emphasizing was, you asked me if this has caused any personal issues between me and a family member. I answered yes. And no, well, all right. He asked if you were seeking damages. He asked specifically if you were seeking damages over that. He says, I answered yes, and that me and my father worked together, and that because of this issue and respect for my father, I made a request not to be scheduled to work with him because I felt that was, one, inappropriate, and two, unprofessional. And given the circumstances after this event and the pressure that it brought, that's when I first made my first request not to work with him due to the stress of this, not because of any friction I had between me and him. Okay, but you didn't miss any work due to that request. No, I did not. Okay, so this may sound stupid, but are you suing on behalf of yourself personally, or are you suing as an officer for the Adams County Sheriff's Office? Are you asking if this lawsuit is a personal lawsuit, or if I'm doing this professionally? Yes, it's a civil lawsuit. It's personal. I see. I mean, that's not really the right answer. It should just be a yes. Is this in the way of anything if I just leave this on the table? No. Okay, Justin. Do you follow Stephen Colbert any? No. South Park? No. Saturday Night Live? No. Okay. Would it be fair to say that some of your issue that you're suing over is the use of your image in this video by TMZ? Correct. Are you aware that the court previously ruled you have no economic interest in your image? I'm not going to speak on that. I don't know what you're referencing, so I'll reserve any. Do you believe you have an economic interest in your image? I do. And what economic interest is that? The fact that my image was used and it was displayed publicly. Have you ever been filmed by the newspaper? I'm sure I've been in a public place, yeah. So you would admit that the newspaper is an economic entity, right? And they've used your photograph before? Right. And you never sued them? Well, they didn't publicly call me names that I felt were offensive. Which post did Mr. Foreman call you names you found offensive? I'm not going to say that I'm going to quote directly, because I don't remember. This had been so long ago. I believe I was called something to the effect of a crackhead Dr. Phil or something to that effect. However, I want you to know that that is not a correct quote. Look at this guy. Should we blow him up for a second? Let me pick a... Crackhead Dr. Phil is crazy. Oh, I've been hidden back here. All right, so we've got crackhead Dr. Phil. That's just the best you can remember? That's the best I can remember. I try not to think about it too much, but that's the best I can remember. Have you ever had anybody run up to you and yell, Dr. Phil? No. Has anybody ever said they saw you on TMZ? Yes. Oh, tell me about that conversation. About on TMZ? Uh-huh. I don't recall. I don't follow TMZ, I don't know. At some point after the fact, somebody sent me or talked to me, I don't recall how. Received, I think it was in person. I think somebody showed me a TMZ picture, and that was one of the first times they had announced the investigation. But I don't recall the specifics about how I got it, sir. Okay, was it derogatory or was it, I'm sorry, just letting you know? Oh, it was more of a, hey, this is what's going on, I wanted to let you know. Did you ever contact TMZ to take down the picture? No, no, sir. Do you think TMZ should be a member of this lawsuit since they put that up? I think that's not my decision to make. I spoke with my representation. So tell me what emotional distress is. I think it's, what part would you like me to discuss about? Well, tell me what it means. It means that you're under distress, and it means you're under emotional distress. I don't know how. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's something that bothers you more than just physically. Is that a fair and accurate description? More than physically? Okay, so it's only words then. No, you asked me what emotional distress is. Emotional distress can be anything. Your grandma can die, or you can get a speeding ticket coming home. Can people... Are you saying we should change qualified immunity if you cause people emotional distress while they're driving home from work? Should we change that? Can you provide examples of this emotional distress you've suffered in this case or in relation to this case? Mr. Klingler chimes in and says, you mean in addition to what he's already said? Mr. Osborne, well, he's talked about different reputation items. I'm parsing it out some. And then Cooley says, I believe that we're starting to circle now. I think that's what I discussed between me and my father. I think that's what I've already established. So that's it? That's it? You know, getting out on active calls, people yelling out things to me. I've already spoke about the incident in its entirety. I'm not sure how I can further explain that question. So, did you see any doctor specifically for emotional distress? Yes, that would have been the doctor that I seen. I told her that I was under a lot of pressure at work and I was having trouble sleeping. Now, if you're asking if I had a full psychological, I did not. I had a symptom. I was having trouble sleeping. I thought just because of stress, I may have had some type of, insomnia or something. And I went there and I spoke with her about stress. She gave me medication for it to help me sleep also. So if we were going to put a number on this reputational harm, what number would you put on it? As far as what? Well, you're asking for damages in excess of $25,000. Okay. So you're asking for damages due to your reputation. Okay. So how much do you think, economically, that your reputation has been damaged? I don't think I'm qualified to give it a number. I don't know how to answer that question the way that you want me to, sir. Okay. You're asking me to provide you a dollar value for the emotional damage. I don't know. I don't even how to begin to answer that. Okay. Now you've also talked about humiliation in the lawsuit. Tell me about the humiliation you've suffered beyond the calls, getting yelled at while you're at work, and the stuff that with your father. What else have you experienced in humiliation? I think it's humiliating that, the pictures was posted and all of the criticism that I got for it was the emotional damage. I don't know how to further explain that. And when you say criticism, are you referring to the people calling in and cussing at you? Well, I mean, that and just overnight there was a definite harm to my public image, which resulted in my public trust being undermined. It made it harder to communicate with people. I immediately start every investigation. Well, not every investigation, I'll clarify this. I immediately started some investigations, having to start out by building credibility with the person calling. But you can't give me a specific instance of that? I mean, it went on for so long. We're talking about something that happened a year ago. There's no way I can sit here and give you a definitive answer with no reference on when this happened. Is there a document that we can refer to that would help us? I know that there was several internal complaints and meetings about how to address the incoming calls that we were receiving, but if you're asking if I wrote a report stating that someone was rude to me on a call, no. On any report that you wrote, did you write anything in there that you had to do extra time to build trust or anything? No. Okay, let's go back to these internal complaints to address these. Tell me about those. So, how many of those were there? What do you mean? How many of what? Well, you said complaints, which means there's more than one. So, how many complaints are there? The issue was, again, I cannot give you specifics. I can give you the best, I can remember we had several meetings about several phone calls that we'd received, and that there was a few times that the calls were actually not going unnoticed, but were delayed due to the amount of the incoming people, or if one person would call once, they would call 15 times and try to be derogatory towards the dispatchers, adding stress. But no, sir, I never kept any specific record of how and when this was discussed publicly. Does that answer the question? Not really. Okay, go ahead again. When you say publicly, what do you mean? Well, what I mean is, when I'm in a public setting, or if someone says something to me, I didn't write that in a journal. If that's what you're asking, I didn't document that. Are these internal complaints documented? No, I don't think it was. Complaint may have been a strong word there. What it was, we had an issue and we discussed it on how we were going to do this. So there was never a department meeting, but it was brought up. Hey, we're going, hey, we got 20 or 30 phone calls yesterday. How do we need to address this? And ultimately, we never had a great answer for that. And nothing was put in writing. What do you mean anything's put in writing? It's on the call log with the CADs for the time being. Every phone call we receive is documented in CAD. Okay, in the CAD system, are these calls got their own designation? Or how would I know this call from another call? I'm not a dispatcher. I can't answer that question. I don't know how they operate CADs. But other than this meeting, but you've leaned on CADs 7 times during this deposition. But other than this meeting, there was nothing in writing to talk about how to deal with all of these phone calls. Well, the issue was addressed. The issue was talked about openly. We never knew we had a problem. I personally have never documented anything. We spoke about it verbally on what to do. I cannot speak to what other deputies do. What I'm telling you is, I knew there was an issue going on. I knew that everyone around was aware of the issue. I don't know why or if or how that was never addressed. That had nothing to do with me. You asked if I ever wrote anything down. I said no. I used the anecdotal point that all of that is retained in the CAD purposes. I don't know how the CAD is operated. I couldn't even tell you how to log into it. So you're saying that it should be in the CAD to your knowledge? Correct. But you've never seen the CAD to verify it's there? No, but I know how the process works, sir. You just said you didn't know how the process works. I know that when one calls into the dispatch center, I know that call is received and automatically dispatched through the CAD. It starts a call record. From the best of my knowledge, I believe that if you would call the sheriff's office to file a complaint, immediately upon answering, a dispatcher is going to ask you qualifying questions, immediately starting a CAD for the incident. So, now when you said call dispatch, are you referring to 911 or just the direct number? Both. So even if they're calling Cooley, to ask for Cooley, they're getting routed. He's saying that there should be some type of discovery questions. Talking about, oh, hey, I want to speak to the Cooley guy and make fun of him again. Yeah, none of the dispatchers signed on. This is all just deputies that were part of the raid. Great question, though. Yeah, and if he had been journaling, he would have known how to process his feelings. Yeah, that guy Nick, I thought about this. So that guy Nick says stenographers use sounds to form words in transcripts, so he definitely said anecdotal. And that's what I was thinking. I'm like, could it just be the court reporter? And I'm like, no, it's probably this guy. Probably this guy. Yeah, and the dispatch calls, wouldn't they be voice recorded? So OG Afroman is the website, ogafroman.com is the website he gave, but same thing. You're saying you got a blank page. I had the same issue because I wanted to order whatever, honestly. But it was not there. So maybe he'll have some merch coming up soon though. So we've just got to check back on that. So Yeah, Courtney Glennie could teach him how to use the Notes app. There we go. Document it all. Document it all. And my favorite part about the Notes app is it appears to show her like going back and editing and changing old notes. So she didn't really do that much. She only did that for like the day before the knife flinging, if you will. So let's see. So nothing's put in writing. Oh, this dispatch side on the right. So now when you said you call dispatch, are you referring to 911 or just the direct number? Both. I believe that if you call either one of them, it is logged somewhere. And then if it is an active incident and a CAD is created, the officer can put notes. But what I'm saying though is, I don't know how it works that if somebody calls, it doesn't obviously always generate a CAD. But that record of phone calls is retained to the best of my knowledge. So as part of the records of calls, is that the phone number that called? That's what I'm referring to, yes sir. So like when I would call in, and then it switches back to Cooley, like a call, we have a caller ID for our CAD. Even if a CAD is not created, there's still now, I know that you can block your number somehow and call that, so I'm not going to say that every number shows up, but we do maintain a record, to the best of my knowledge, of who called the sheriff's office. Obviously, you guys were getting a lot of calls. Okay? Obviously, you would have worked at this. Was anybody charged criminally for calling? Not that I know of, but all I can speak to is what I've done. I've never charged anybody criminally for it, but I'm not going to speak to the agency as a whole. Okay, but to your knowledge, nobody was charged for calling in. So you have these meet and greets every day at the office, like, here's what we're doing to handle these calls. And you're going to act like you can't tell if somebody during those meetings ever said, hey, we're actually going to take action. We're going to take some punitive action against these individuals that keep calling in. This is part of our meeting today where we put our heads together and cry every day, our daily huddle. And here's what we're going to do. If someone in your office, anybody in your office was taking punitive action against these callers, you're telling me that this guy wouldn't have heard about it when they have all these non-written meetings? So anyway, he says, okay, but to your knowledge, nobody was charged for calling in. To my knowledge, no. Now, another thing your lawsuit asks for is attorney's fees. How much attorney's fees have you spent to date? Ooh, I don't recall. A lot? A little? I don't recall, honestly. More than 100? Yes. More than 1,000? I don't recall. I don't know what the total is up to now. We're talking about something that's been going on for years. Okay, so somewhere between $100 and $1,000. I'm not going to say that. I bet he's paid for filing fees. I bet he's paid for filing fees. So somewhere between 100 and 1,000. I'm not going to say that. I'm saying I don't know how much. I don't recall. This has been something that's been going on for years. I know that I have sent some payment in for some things, but I could not tell you how much exactly I've paid. I don't even think I could give it to you within a ballpark figure. Okay, it would be correct to say I would have to talk to Bob for that. Yeah. You're suing Mr. Foreman under the unreasonable publicity given to a private life of yourself. Okay. What private things has he disclosed about your life? What do you mean? How many private things has he disclosed? Yes. None. But I think the point of what I'm trying to say is that the private life is affected because of this. That's not how the law works. Okay, so when we talk about this lawsuit, really what we're talking about is how you've been affected by what Mr. Foreman posted. I'm sorry, say that again. I'm sorry. So when we talk about this lawsuit, we're really talking about how you have been affected personally then. That's part of this, yes. Okay, what's the other part? Well, what I'm saying is your wording in this is such a way that I'm trying to be cautious. You keep wording it in such a way where there's a definitive end and a beginning. What I'm saying is this is part of this lawsuit. The fact that my image was used, the fact that it brought negative light to me in my personal life. What part of your personal life did it bring negative light to? Well, I mean, it's not hard when you live in a small town and everywhere you go, everyone sees these videos and you become a public spectacle. But if you're going to ask me again if I journaled every offense I've seen in those several years, no, sir, I did not. Though what I'm saying, though, is that when I talk to people bring this up, both professionally and personally. Okay, so you say public spectacle. What do you mean by spectacle? Say it again, the public spectacle. What did I say? What are you talking about? You said that this has made you a public spectacle. Well, it just means that it seems like for the first several weeks of this, everywhere you went, somebody went out of their way to make a comment to make you mad. It doesn't matter if you were in uniform or you're out of uniform. Everywhere you went, because maybe they recognize that receding hairline, you may run into somebody, and it's not every time, but what I'm saying is it happened. People would make comments, people would say things. Derogatory things? Yes. What did they say? Not always, no, not always. Some people would show support for us, and then some people wouldn't. So it's a mixed bag. It can be. Was it or was it not? He's speaking in possibilities now. What does parody mean to you? I'm sorry? If I was going to do a parody of your life, what would that mean to you? Making a comedy. Okay, so if I was going to ask you what a fair resolution to this case was, what would be a fair resolution to this case? I think I would want to speak with my attorney before I answer that question, sir. Would you like to take a break to answer that question? Mr. Klingler says, you've got our demand. Osborne says, okay. So, your attorney has asked for... Oh. So initially, because remember, Justin Cooley was one of the... And jury were asking you... Oh, I'm on Afroman's Instagram. Oh my god, I want to watch it. Maybe we'll pull it up before the end of the stream. Yay! I'm like, why is Erin saying, oh my god? I thought she was going to be like, Kat, you totally made a completely incorrect statement of the law. But it was good news. Super, super, super awesome. So we'll pop over to see that. I'm excited. We've got this. So your attorney was asked for $810,000 in damages. How did he come to that number? Well, so remember he tells the jury, well, for these other four guys, we want like $1.5 million for Lisa, $1.5 million for Nyland, $1 million for Randy with the wife. But for the others, we just want them to split $400,000 amongst themselves. But initially, they wanted close to $1 million just for Justin Cooley's experience. So that's hilarious. At one point in time, they wanted $810,000. Shout out to Afroman if you're out there. We're all looking for merch. Can you put more merch on your website? We all want some merch. So I'm one part of a many complaint here. There's multiple people in this room. I'm not going to speak for everybody or pretend to speak for my attorney. That's why we hired him to speak on our behalf. So out of the 810, how much is in relation to your damages? I have no idea. Well, you had to give him a number. I'm telling you, I don't recall what that number is. Okay, do you remember how you got to that number? It was through various emails and speaking with the case. With him? With your attorney? I'm sorry, with your attorney? With my attorney, speaking with my attorney via email about this case. And I think that one part of this was, at some point, to attempt to reach a resolution. That number was discussed there. But what I'm going to say is, I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone in this room. There's multiple people here. Everybody is going to get, this is Osborne. Everybody's going to get deposed. Oh yeah, right. Okay, so have you engaged the services of an expert to determine the value of your reputation and all this other stuff? No. So this number, to your knowledge, was obtained without an expert? What would an expert in that field be? I don't understand the question. What expert is licensed to evaluate the loss of reputation? Because, sir, if that's a thing, I would love to go ahead and employ that person. Okay, but you have no experts at this time? I don't think that exists, correct, no. And at this point in time, you cannot remember the portion of the 810,000 that was in reference to you. Okay, so so that 810 might be for the whole group? That's all they were asking for in a demand letter? For everybody? He says, correct, I don't know. He says, okay, and just to recap, you never reviewed the entry on partial summary judgment that Judge Jerry McBride, the original judge, determined in 2023. Correct? Correct. I've read all of it, but I don't remember is what I'm saying. And then Mr. Osborne, if he can have a second, and then they talk with Afroman, and then Osborne comes back. I have no further questions for Mr. Cooley at this time. Mosier and Klingler have no questions, so then they read and sign, and that ended at 1:37 p.m. So there was that. I got the index there. Yeah, so I guess the initial demand, unless it was just because of the way he was asking, maybe it was just his ask, but Curious Lay wants $1 million just for existing. Yeah, can we see that? Can we get that? Can we send a demand letter to anybody? So we've got, who was next? Was it Randy or okay, Michael Estep would be the next deposition. Let's see if he has like a super long one. We can get through Michael Estep's. It's like 11 pages without the index, I think. Let me put up his picture. This guy. Oh, wait, I have a little one. That one. There we go. Put him in the corner with us. So there we go. All right. So this was the same day. This was August 6th. This was starting at 3:45 p.m. It was a Wednesday. They're at David Osborne's office. Oh, I didn't share it. Let me make this bigger. All right, so this is now the afternoon. It's all the same. Oh, hey, Randy's present for this one, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so Randy's present. He wasn't present for the other ones. So let's see. We've got, they're stating his name. He spells his name. He's employed as a road patrol sergeant with the Adams County Sheriff's Office. He's been here since September of 2001, roughly 24 years. And Osborne asks, all right, and you mentioned you're a sergeant now. What was your rank in 2022? Sergeant. When were you promoted to sergeant? 2014. And did you work any other law enforcement prior to coming to the Adams County Sheriff's Office? Yes, I worked at Peebles, is where I started my career at. Now, Peebles is where the Williams Newland thing happened. Brian Newland's brother was over in Peebles. So you went to Peebles straight out of the academy? Yes. They helped sponsor me. Okay, and which academy did you attend? Brown County Academy, which was Southern Hills. Southern Hills Community College? No, not college. Career and Technical Center, it's called now. And am I correct in stating that you're a duly licensed peace officer in the state of Ohio? That's correct. And you have been duly licensed since, well, when did you start at Peebles? 1986. So you've been a duly licensed peace officer in the state of Ohio since 1986. Well, officially I started out in 86 and completed in January of 87 when I was a POTA certified. So you've been certified since 1987? Yes. And you've been keeping up with your yearly continuing education hours? Yes. And were you on duty August 21st, 2022? And guys, I think all of this is just to say you are a public official for this time period that's relevant. So this is okay. So do you know if the Adams County Sheriff's Office has a written policy on how to complete search warrants? I'm confident there is a policy, but telling you the language, it's been so long ago since I've read the policies. Okay, if I was looking for that policy, where would I find it? Well, there used to be policies on a CD. Is that what you're looking for in the CD cases? It was initially how it was handed out. They're on the office computer. There was a book that it was printed out and kept in a book. I'm not sure where or if all exist to this day, because we're in a transition right now on policies. So remember, this is taking place in August of 2025, and they're transitioning policies. So Osborne says, what do you mean with that? They're updating. Okay, is that something that the new sheriff has started? Yes. So when we were talking about like the CD in this book, we would be referring to what would have been in existence in 2022? Correct. Is there a written policy on the use of confidential informants at the Adams County Sheriff's Office? I can't say. That's kind of been a thing that's been back and forth with the transition of updates and old sheriff, new sheriff. And I never really worked much with confidential informants until just recently, and it's still been very little. And if you, considering a confidential informant does not always mean that, you know, somebody, and then a phone rings. Sorry about that, I thought I had it on vibrate. If it doesn't happen at least once during a deposition, it's not a good depo. There you go, Osborne. Turn it into a pound cake. So a confidential informant can be anybody that's going to give you information regarding something. So someone off the street or, yeah, that wants to remain anonymous. So I guess you could always say you're always working with confidential informants because someone always wants to share some kind of thing, some information about somebody or something. Okay, so prior to 2022, had you worked with confidential informants before? I would say ongoing, with just somebody coming in and wanting to remain anonymous. That's a confidential informant in my eyes, if they don't want to be known. Now, there was some mention about a packet that needed to be completed. Can you tell me about that packet? I've just become knowledgeable of the packet through use in probably the last year. Do you know when that packet was developed? I do not. Okay, and then they reference the search warrant affidavit and all of that. Now, if I may, I would like you to take a look at Exhibit 8, Plaintiffs Exhibit 8. Have you seen that document before? Are you referring to the top sheet? The search warrant, yes. Yes. When was the first time you saw it? After it was drafted. Detective Sergeant Newland asked us to basically come do proofreading and see if there was anything that was missing that we might have knowledge of. When you say us, who do you mean? Everybody who was involved. That would be Deputy Cooley, myself, himself, and me. So Sean Cooley, yourself, him, who else? Detective Sergeant Newland. So when you say us, it's just you three. Yes. Okay, did you have any contact with the confidential informant? Yes. Can you please tell me about your first contact with her? It was a follow-up investigation of a complaint that Deputy Sean Cooley was working on that we ended up having an encounter with that person. And it says in parentheses that Deputy Phillips left the deposition. So Lisa just left. Were you present for the so-called knock and talk? Who was a knock and talk? If you flip the page at the bottom of page 2, it says 2? It says to conduct a knock and talk with resident. Yes. That was part of an investigation that Sean Cooley was working on. Okay, and you were there for that? Yes. So I'm going to delve into that a little bit. So what exactly is a knock and talk? So Pound Cake and Estep are the ones talking. They're the ones that are talking to this lady, Tasha, where they find the 2,100 grams and this little container that say Afroman. So what exactly is a knock and talk? Well, it's making contact with somebody to conduct a follow-up investigation or investigation. And remember, Justin Cooley is like, well, it just means making contact. So when you don't have enough for like a search warrant, you just go and say, hey, would they talk to you? Yeah, I mean, they could be a witness, they could be a suspect, they could be a victim. So it's correct to term knock and talk to be slang for just make contact. I think it's just something law enforcement officers use. Okay, so you arrived on August 21st at Heather Holly Lane. That's where the confidential informant is. Tell me what happened. So you guys get out of the car. What happened next? People from 2 to 3 blocks away started yelling at us. We ended up talking to her and she was later transported, brought into the Adams County Sheriff's Office for a follow, more in depth of an investigation of some of the stuff that Deputy Sean Cooley was working on. So they bring her down to the sheriff's office. This is some new context. So they're not just talking to her at her house and they see all this stuff. And this makes sense, right? We know that while they're talking to her, they see a 3rd-degree felony amount of marijuana in her house. But now we're getting it stated somewhere that, well, when we're continuing to talk with her, we actually have her down at the sheriff's office for a follow or a more in-depth of an investigation of some of the stuff that Deputy Sean Cooley was working on. And she was transported there mainly for that reason, and this came out. When you say she was transported, what do you mean by that? Just brought over, I don't recall or know if she even had a ride or anything at the present time. So she's brought over in a police vehicle for one reason or another. So when you say brought over, and transported, you're not meaning she wasn't, no. So she came voluntarily to the police station? I can't recall if there was any kind of charges or anything even pending or anything ongoing. I just remember being brought to the sheriff's office, or she came to the sheriff's office. I'm not even 100% certain exactly who or how she got there. I just know she ended up there. It would be safe to say you didn't transport her. I can't remember that either. It's been so long ago. Were you part of the search of her residence? Yes. Okay, so can you tell me about that process, the search of her residence? I remember, and I can't say on amounts, but I do remember that there was marijuana there. I can't honestly tell you how much, I don't know. This may sound stupid, was it a lot or a little? We'll just say a decent amount. I mean, I don't know what it weighed out, grams, pounds, or anything like that. But it wasn't just one joint. No, no. And it's not like a truckload either. No, gosh, no. This may sound stupid to ask, but would about 2,000 grams be considered a decent amount? Yeah. Just when you do it, remember we're recording, so we have to have verbal responses. Yes. Did you find the marijuana or, sorry, let me rephrase that. Did you find the green vegetative substance, or what did you find during the search of her residence? I honestly can't recall. I just remember it was marijuana, some here, some there, and I couldn't even tell you what was even contained in. It's been so long ago. But it was all over the residence? It was, I won't say all over, it was in one room. Was there anything found in an ashtray or anything that would indicate that she's a user of marijuana? I can't recall. Okay, did you conduct a field test on the substance? No. Do you recall it being tested? I can't recall if it ever was or not. Okay. Do you know if it was ever sent to the BCI? And that's like the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, state agency. I can't advise on that either. You can't advise or don't know the answer or can't advise? I can't recall, I don't know. Have you ever had any contact with a confidential informant since the events of the 22nd? I've had one or two encounters with them as of some investigations going on. Are those still ongoing? No, it was something the Winchester police was dealing with. One was over a storage unit. It was a theft of some sort of furniture that they were working on, and she had some involvement in it in some way, somehow. I really didn't get into the investigation. I guess 2 of the times was when I got her. I found her located at her car, and she took me to the storage unit. So where the stuff was supposed to have been or moved from and put and in another unit. So Winchester handled that. I can't even say what the outcome of it was. I helped them with that, with what they instructed, and that was the end. Okay, so you just helped Donnie? Yes, and it seemed like it was somebody made a traffic stop on her on another situation somewhere, and I ended up there. But I really don't have much involvement. I was basically there if I needed to be. Okay, so on the 21st of August, after she was transported back to the sheriff's department, what was your interaction with her at that time? Well, just learning about that somebody was supposed to have been held hostage in Joseph Foreman's residence and supposed to have been a large amount of marijuana within the residence or on the property. When you say a large amount, would that be larger than a decent amount? It depends on how you want to interpret. Everybody's different. Well, let me put it this way. A search warrant for marijuana would have been more than recreational use. Yes. So if you're wanting to get a search warrant to search my residence, I would be thinking I'm looking for quantity. Okay, so walk me through your interaction with her. So you're at the station and she's in the interview room. What happens next? And this is all getting into if you're searching all these minuscule nooks and crannies, but you should at least be looking for a decent amount or larger. Should you have been poking around every nook and cranny like that? Is it reasonable to be looking in crevices? So they say what happens, so you're at the station, she's in the interview room, what happens next? The first time we talked to her, we informed Detective Sergeant Brian Newland because he'd done all of the narcotics investigations for our agencies. We interacted with her, learned what, she was saying about who was held hostage, a female there, and marijuana. We went back, she told locations where the female was supposed to be within the residence and that she last had knowledge of. And we give all that information to Detective Sergeant Newland, and then he obtained the information, put it in a search warrant, wanted us to review the search warrant before being signed by a judge to see if there's anything that we learned that he didn't learn that maybe was missing from the search warrant or something incorrect. He says, okay, so I want to unpack that a little bit. You mentioned Brian Newland was doing the narcotics investigations. Yeah, he'd done most of the narcotics work. I'm not an expert, but isn't marijuana not a narcotic? It's an illegal drug, I mean drugs. So are you saying Brian Newland was doing drug investigations? Yes, he done the drug investigations. Okay, so he did other things than just narcotics? Yes, he would, but I mean that his key role was to work drug problems, drug trafficking, drug possessions. How many search warrants have you seen for marijuana in your career? I couldn't give you a number. A few. I couldn't put a number on it over my course of time. I couldn't say an exact number or even really a rough number. Okay, so she told you, how many times did you interview her? Because you said the first time, how many times did you talk to her? Twice did I interact with her. So you said the first time she told you about a hostage. Tell me about this hostage. What did she say about this hostage? She said there was a female that was being basically held hostage against her will, was kept in a cage in a room, a small room. Small room. So did she give a name for this female? She could have, but I can't recall. It was a period of time. Previous people have referred to a juvenile. When you say a female, are you also referring to this person that was a juvenile? I can't recall whether she said a juvenile or adult. I'm not going to say one way or another. I just know it was a female. I do know that. Did she talk about a basement any to you? I never heard anything mentioned of a basement. So why didn't you correct it on the affidavit that you just said you reviewed when Brian Newland asked you to correct anything? And then it says, what about this, the dungeon? I never heard that either. Why didn't you correct it? The only thing I heard was a small room. Okay, and this was all during the first time that you talked with her. First and second, I mean, what she basically just recapped from the first time. So both of her interviews, according to him, she said the same things. It was consistent. If I asked you questions about first time versus second time, would you be able to differentiate what happened, or would your memory just, it's all lumped together? It's all lumped together as the same thing. I mean, we didn't look for anything different, just confirming the information. What was Brian Newland wanting you to confirm exactly? Just basically the assurance that, that I learned what Deputy Sean Cooley learned, that, we had all the elements covered within the warrant, what we had knowledge of, and then he put what he had knowledge of, and it was all compiled into the warrant. Oh. So the warrant is an amalgamation of what everybody knew at the time from her. Yes. So when you reviewed the warrant and it talked about a dungeon, you were assuming that's something Mr. Newland heard. Somebody other than myself, yes. And so what did she tell you about the residence? The only thing I remember something other than a long hallway with, or yeah, I guess it would be a long hallway with some rooms off of it, is where the female was supposed to be. Did she say the last time she saw this female there? I don't recall. Let me find it here. If I told you that, so if you look at page 3, number 6, it says, Affiant states confidential informant indicated she has not been to Russellville Road in approximately 1 month. Does that sound about right on the last time she was there to see anything? I can't recall. Okay, so that would have been the time elements. So that would have been something that maybe Mr. Newland heard. Very possible. Okay, can things change within a month? Change? Things can change in 5 minutes. So you reviewed the search warrant, checked for spelling, make sure that everything you heard was in there. What happened next? He took the warrant to the court and met with the judge to see if there was enough probable cause there to sign the warrant. And when you say he, you're referring to Brian Newland? Correct. So Brian Newland's the one that's actually making the representation to this judge. So Brian Newland walked the warrant to Judge Gabbard. Yes. I assume Judge Gabbard signed it? Yeah. So while he was going to get the search warrant signed, what were you doing? Just hanging out at the office. So he was not there. So this judge, we've eliminated that this judge was relying on any in-person representation from Estep. He was just hanging out at the office to see whether it was going to be signed or not signed, and then what would happen next. Okay, were they already calling people in before it was signed? Not to my knowledge, I don't recall that. Do you recall what time that you arrived at the Russellville residence? I can just say it was later evening. I don't know what time. I do believe it was still daylight out. Okay, so the search warrant is signed. Mr. Newland comes back, has the search warrant signed. What happens next? People were called in. I can't recall who called who, but there was people called in. There was numerous officers there. I can't recall how many and who all. Once everybody that was called that said that they were going to respond, we met at the sheriff's office and developed a plan of, who's going to where, who's going to who, and etc. What was your role in the plan? I just stayed on the outside perimeter of the residence. When you say outside perimeter, initially, tell me about the outside perimeter. I was just watching around, making sure nobody exited the building, make sure, nobody came out with guns or remotes, harmed anybody. So if Sean was at the side of the house watching the driveway, where would you have been in relation to him? And I'm assuming he means Sean Cooley, but there's also Sean Grooms. Where would you have been in relation to him? I would have been on the side of the house, but that corner, let's see, that would be I guess, like the northeast corner, I believe. Would that be the side opposite of Sean? It wasn't the front door, it was the side, so it would have been, if you was looking to the side door, it would have been to the right of it. So like in the back of the house. Yeah, on the corner of the side in the back. Okay, did you help with the breach of the door? No. Did you help with the search of the house? Some. Okay, so what did you do as part of the search? I helped in 2 rooms. Well, 2 rooms and a little bit of another room. Upstairs, just looking for anything that might lead to something of human trafficking or a hostage situation or drug trafficking or anything of that nature as far as evidence. Basically, just check the room over. So when you say stuff leading to evidence of human trafficking, what type of evidence would you be looking for? Well, anything that would lead us to believe that someone was held there against their will. So when you're looking for, it could be letters, it could be CDs of maybe people being filmed, things that may have happened, any kind of evidence, clothing, may participate in saying something about someone, anything. So when you're talking about CDs, would this be why the CDs were looked to see if there was any of that where, yeah, I looked at those and then asked Detective Sergeant Newland if it was something we needed to take, and at the end of the day, it was something he says no need for us to take. So I don't know what changed in that avenue, but yes, that was initially why. And I know you talked about letters and stuff, so you were looking at papers also? Looking to see if there was anything, any kind of, what do you want to call it, a book or something. Anything that would lead to information of that type of incident. And I take it you were also looking for a cage and stuff like that. Yeah, looking for the obvious things. Well, I referred to a cage. I mean, a cage would be an obvious thing that you would see, right? I mean, something big, and you'd think, oh, if somebody's being held against their will, would this be something that they were put in? Well, you mentioned that the confidential informant told you about a cage, so I'd imagine that's what you'd be looking for. Yep, that's correct. Did you do any, you forgot? Did you do any search of the basement? Just walk through the best is, what? He doesn't remember that there wasn't a basement? Did you do any search of the basement? Just walked through, the best I can recall. I remember walking down in this, like Deputy Cooley said, open the door. Might have just glanced in as I'm walking by because I was like the tail end of the group there. So you said that you searched 2 rooms. What 2 rooms did you search? Oh my gosh. It was 2 upstairs. I believe it was Mr. Foreman's bedroom and then the room. As I heard Justin Cooley was referring to another, like, this, I can't get over this. We got to go back to this. We got to marinate on this because you're here getting a search warrant signed and you're going the same day because you think there's somebody being held captive. And you think somebody's being held in a cage in a basement. But when you say, oh, I think I remember I walked down like this, it was like kind of a door, but we just kept walking by. You didn't even believe your own story, because why would you keep walking by the thing where somebody was being held captive? You didn't even believe your own story. You go, oh, I'm just going to keep walking. And the reason for this is because there's a lie. He doesn't remember walking down into this basement area because there was no basement. But like, even his bullshit story sounds like bullshit on its face. Anyway, that's my little marinating on that part. So when you were searching those 2 rooms upstairs, what were you searching exactly? Did you look through the suits? Yes. So you aided in going through the suits? Yes. Did you look under the bed? I can't recall. I found people hiding under beds, so I very well may have for my own sake and safety, yes. Or you never know what's under the beds. Do you recall finding any evidence in either the bedroom or I'm going to call it the closet? The only thing that I recall, I believe, there was one suit, had some money in it. I couldn't tell you how much. I just pointed out to Detective Newland and showed him where it was located at. Left it right in place. And then somebody discovered in a little room downstairs a jar of marijuana. I can't recall who exactly noted that or who found that, but I remember it being there. And when you say jar, I mean a glass jar, a quart size maybe, or maybe a hair larger. So a quart size mason jar? Yeah. Did you test that? No, I did not. You just remember seeing it. I just remember seeing it. And so you mentioned that there was like this other room that you did a little bit of searching in? That was the one that had the marijuana. That would have been very little. There's a little room downstairs. Yeah. So after that, what did you do? I don't recall if I helped gather up any or carry anything to the car. I think I had to get something out of my car. It might have been a shield or something, I'm not real sure. But I put my stuff away, whatever I had out of it, and shortly after that, after everything was done and over with, I left. Did you ever search any of the outbuildings? Yes, I did. I walked with, actually, Joseph's, I believe, ex-wife, maybe wife. I'm not sure if they're married or not. Angela? Yeah. She walked with us, and we looked through the buildings there and just checked them. I mean, maybe this was after the keys, but when they were initially going to those different sheds, Angela wasn't with them. So, but maybe this is after they got the keys out of the key box. But they'd already gone in some without the keys that were open. So they say, no, I can't find anything in there. Even though they open the one shed and they see USPS boxes. And they're like, oh, this is it. This is the trafficking. This is their shed where they're storing everything that they're using the U.S. Postal Service to ship. We found it. They were excited. Just crazy. Just crazy. So this may sound stupid. Did you find large quantities of marijuana in any of those buildings? No. Did you ever see a dungeon? No, not that I can recall. You would forget that? You forget that part. And you wore your body cam the entire time you did the search. That is correct. So we can refer to your body cam and there wouldn't be anything missing. Not that I can recall. Mine was pretty short and sweet. Were you on duty that day? I was. So when this was cleared, you went back to the road patrol? I think I went home. My day was well past over when that was done. Were you involved with the security system at all? No, I'd seen something upstairs. I can't even tell you what it was. I don't know if it was a monitor or controlled to a monitor or what, sitting on a stand. I do believe I picked it up, looked at it, and that was the extent of that. So you didn't fiddle with a black box next to the CDs? I looked at it or something, because the other guy pointed it out, and I can't remember if it was a controller or what it was, but something with, I believe, with the security system. Okay, is there a policy at the Adams County Sheriff's Office in relation to security systems during a search? If we believe it's evidence, it can be taken. I mean, you know, if we believe it's part of the commission of the crime, it's no different than a drug itself. And this is something that bothers me because if you really thought somebody was being trafficked and you already have this warrant and permission to take any documentation that might go to prove this kidnapping or prove the drug trafficking, you disconnect the surveillance, but then you don't take it. If this really was some type of trafficking scheme where women are forced in the basement defecating and drugs are being run in and out of the house, you don't take this, which means you can't stop it and prosecute it. It would be incompetent police work had there really been victims here. But they just disconnect it and leave it on the couch, which, what's a reasonable inference of that? What's a reasonable inference there? They simply wanted to disconnect it. They weren't interested in what could have been recorded in that household. So, and then he says, well, that begs the question. I could see if you guys thought it was evidence and take it, but why would it be cut and then left at the scene? To my knowledge, I never knew anything about being cut or damaged or tore up, to my knowledge, but I never had anything to do with it. So you're skipping the question, right? He's addressing we don't know that they actually used scissors or wire cutters. The question is, why wasn't it seized? Why wasn't it seized? Did you ever have any contact with the evidence as it was put in the bags as evidence? No. Did you have any contact with the money evidence bags after they were sealed? No, not that I can recall. Did you peek in any of the windows when you arrived at the residence? No, I went to the corner of the residence and that's where I just remained until they said the house was clear. Okay, did anybody look in the windows to your knowledge? I can't recall. So, I took my post and that's where I remained. So when did you first become aware of anything being posted in relation to the search? When I started hearing people talk about it. When was that? Gosh, I can't give you a date. Shortly after, a long time after? I don't know, because I never was involved in getting on there to see if people was talking about me. It had to be brought to my attention by someone that knows someone was talking about me. And then I don't even know how much I even looked after that, because I was informed about everything by everyone else. Did your wife or kids or anybody look at it? Oh yeah, absolutely. And tell you about it? Yeah, and on others. People other than the officers? Oh, yeah. Okay, so one of the things that's being asked for in damages is damages to your reputation. Can you tell me about the damage to your reputation? Can you put a number on anybody's reputation if it's ruined? I mean, sort of, yeah. I mean, I always think of that one Hollywood expert in the Johnny Depp trial who, like, knew the estimated values of Zendaya, and others. Like, yeah. Or, there's celebrities that insure body parts. Like, didn't Rihanna have her legs insured for like $1 million a piece? So, and that's physical, but what I'm saying is there are, like, underwriters and analysts that do put values on somebody's brand name. So, well, we're going to ask that in a second, but in what ways has your reputation been hurt? Well, when you go to a public function, I'll just give you an example. When you walk into a Christmas dinner and somebody's wearing a King Kong Bundy t-shirt. What? King Kong Bundy? That's who I was supposed to be. Say that again for me, please. King Kong Bundy. King Kong Bundy. Okay, now we got it. Wearing a t-shirt of me like King Kong Bundy. And this was a Christmas party. Where was it at? The People's Firehouse. So it's your own people. It's your own people. It's more people that serve the public joshing around with you. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. So they go to the People's Firehouse Christmas party. I know it's all meant as a joke, but things sometimes shouldn't be joked about, especially with everything that goes along with it. Why not? And when was this Christmas party? What year? We're in 25, I think 23. The Christmas dinner. Oh, man. Yeah, so the guy got paid overtime for the raid. Oh, man. Just crazy. Did you file an HR claim? Yeah, he got ribbed by his friends because that's what good friends do. Or they don't, either way. It could be an actual beef, it could be joshing. But either way, it's like coming from sort of inside the house. And remember, I think he said he started over in People. So when you talk about reputational harm, are you talking about not the fire department, but their law enforcement agency? Oh, I'm over here. Okay. So 2023 Christmas party. Okay. Was that the one Aaron Haslam was at bidding on the baskets? Oh, they were doing a raffle. No, this was our departmental family Christmas dinner we had. The departmental family? Yeah, the fire department. All of the fire department? Yes, and their families. Okay, who was wearing the shirt then? One of my assistant chiefs. Did you talk to her about wearing it? Oh, I did after it was noticed, yes. Did she say why she decided to wear it? It was a he. Oh, why he decided... Are they going to sue? Oh, why he decided to wear it? They just thought it was a good prank. So they did it as a joke on you. Yes. Okay, so if you had to put a dollar value on your reputational harm, what dollar value would you put on there? I just asked you a question a while ago before you asked me mine. Can you put a number on yours if it would be ruined? Well, I could come up with a number in my head and I would usually... I guess it's all what you feel is good for you. That's the best way I can explain it. If I'm happy with $1, I'm happy with $1. If I'm happy with $1 million, I'm happy with $1 million. So it's subjective then, how much a person's reputation could be harmed? Yeah, subjective to the person. Yes, and, probably who it affects amongst that person. Who all has been affected by the harm to your reputation? Definitely me and my family. So when you talk about your family, should they be parties to this lawsuit? Probably should have been, but I can't answer why we hadn't explored that avenue. Can you imagine any one of these deputies putting their family members on this lawsuit? Oh my gosh. Probably should have been, but I can't answer why we hadn't explored that avenue. So when you talk about reputational harm, are you talking about to yourself or to your family in addition? Family in addition. There's also talk about damages for emotional distress. What exactly is emotional distress? Anything that I say that takes you out of your normal capacity of where you would normally be in a day or night. Define normal being. Not sleeping well, not thinking well because of the amount of distractions that it causes, and what comes out of that distraction. Did you see a doctor for the not sleeping well? Can I sue my job for emotional distress? Like, can we do that? No, I did not. You never saw? Should I have? Probably very well. Okay. No doctor for the not thinking well? Nope. When you say not thinking well, what do you mean? Well, when somebody's in your ear talking about all of the negatives that went along with the station while you're trying to function and take care of someone that has a true complaint, it makes it very difficult if your mind is trying to focus on them. But on that same time, you're trying to focus on what you're hearing. So, and this is crazy because it's like his issue is more the distraction because people keep filling him in on the gossip. Oh, I saw this post about you. So he's saying that messenger is the distraction. He's not even saying the underlying message is the distraction. So they say, so when you say someone, you're talking about people at a scene talking to you. So people, the public, yelling at scenes and not everything is always bad. But it's just the fact, of a reminder, a constant reminder, whether it's good or bad, So it's not even, you don't even know if it's good or bad. Some things you just kind of just not want to hear about after a while. Sort of how we're all tired of hearing about the election. Yeah, absolutely. So other than reputation and emotional distress, what other damages, economic damages, have you suffered? I think that my credibility with the general public. Can you give me an example of that being harmed? Lack of trust. Can you give me an example? Well, they want to think the best of you, but on the same token, with this being put out there, it's like, is this guy the guy we want to take care of our complaint? Can you give me an instance where a person... No, not really. I mean, just how people, how they respond to you, just as their demeanor, how they look at you, how they talk to you, You can feel the lack of trust from people. They're not confident as they normally would be. Well, imagine how Afroman feels after he's accused of having women in his basement shitting in buckets. And so it slows you down when you go to a scene because you have to rebuild trust with these people. Yes, assurance. You've got to build. I mean, it takes 3 seconds to destroy something and 3 years to build it back or longer. So there was this mention previously of a lot of phone calls, not only the sheriff's department and dispatch, but also the prosecutor's office. Do you know of anybody that was prosecuted out of that? No. I know that they tried to trace stuff back and they've got some texts, now apps and different things, and use numbers that call from somewhere else where they couldn't be connected to it. No, it was so difficult to try to track and find where people were located. What a horrible message to send. This is like, in the growing age of digital, technological harassment, digital stalking, there's different, umbrella terms for it. But if you were looking to be up to no good, to go and harass somebody, and you see, oh, it's too difficult for us to trace, this would not deter that type of behavior from happening in the first place. This is a signal that you could get away with it because we don't have that technology. And while that's not true, and I'm sure that person could be prosecuted, it's almost like an enablement. Anyway, it says now they said there was one or two that were identified. Were any of them contacted or prosecuted, to your knowledge? Chief Bobbery Bush at the time took care of... He kind of grabbed that situation and tried to monitor it, and I don't know where he went with things and what he done with it. I mean, he was instructing dispatchers and instructing us what to expect from us, and so I don't know what all was done or how he addressed it. Can you tell me what he instructed you guys to do? Well, basically, just to not answer any calls if at all possible, which was difficult because people started calling the extensions in the sheriff's office, I also was involved with the dispatch center where I had to fill in from time to time and help because I had training skills to be a dispatcher as well. And, overflow calls coming in, having to take those calls and just listen to these terrible people out there, how they're talking about each other and every one of us, how bad we are. as sheriff's office employees. If the public's calling in with concerns, this guy just called them terrible people out there. You were telling me a lot about how the sheriff's department has been affected by your lack of efficiency and talking with people and dealing with the scene. I don't think it's just only the sheriff's office credibility, but people in just general life. What do you mean the sheriff's office credibility? Well, again, as an employee working, their credibility of trust with them. But I mean, when you're out of uniform, people don't change the image of you that they see about you if they run into you on the street. You are, and nothing changes just because you're in street clothes. Now, this is critical because I think this is what's so important about protecting the commentary and the exaggerations and everything that Afroman was doing. Like, should we not be able to say things and comment about what the police are doing when they raid someone's home just because at some point in time later they're not going to be in uniform and they're going to be doing something within their private lives? It's a call for censorship on the actions of a public official just because they also will later do things in private. That's really what the ask was here. So you're saying the sheriff's office credibility has been hurt as an office. Oh, I'm very confident it just didn't do it any good. Has there been any events since 2022 that would affect the sheriff's office? Well, it happened periodically every time something would change. It's not been anything very recent, but I mean, yes, there was times that if something changed or something new came out, there would be a flare-up. So like a new video, I guess. And so you're referring to a flare-up being like when the phone calls would start. That's his answer. Okay, sort of like the TikTok video where they was giving a child rape a deal, and it was on TikTok, and they did an event outside the jail and the sheriff's office, so they're getting into Newland. I don't know as it's just that in general. I think it's just, because there's been a change and people start seeing it, even if it was old stuff, it would, obviously come to mind because people become curious and nosy and started looking. So you got different people having different comments about different things, not just one in particular person, but as a whole. But the reason this is important is because it would be the public commenting on the agency. But there's been other events, other than Mr. Foreman, that have shed negative light on the sheriff's department. Oh, absolutely. I mean, law enforcement has nothing but a black eye in this world today. Has the sheriff's department taken any steps in retaliation to those other negative lights? And not for nothing. I think I've seen compliments. I've seen like bravos to the officers that decided not to put their name on this lawsuit who may have been present for the raid that day. Like, that's not nothing but a black eye. That's hey, that officer was smart to not try to get money out of somebody that was commenting on them. So I don't know. That's just a really myopic and mischaracterization, I would say, of people's reactions. But at least if we zoom in on this specific example too, has the sheriff's department taken any steps in relation to those other negative lights? Just trying to be more positive, positive rapport or interaction, basically with people and kids and stuff, to not let them think that law enforcement is bad. So they didn't, as an agency, try to sue, which would be a garbage lawsuit, but point being, is initiating a lawsuit going to help put you in a positive light? So have you been threatened before in the line of duty? Several times. Had a gun pulled on you? I can't say I recall ever having a gun pulled on me. Well, interesting. He's been a cop for a really long time. So I feel like that's very fortunate. So you've been threatened before. How did you deal with those threats previously? Well, normally it was due with somebody that's in custody, somebody you knew, somebody that was already in trouble. And, depending on the severity of it to where, I may go with it, you have to take a lot of abuse being a police officer in this world today. And some of the things was a part of the existence of why they were going to jail, why they was in custody. And sometimes, depending on whether it's somebody that, comes to the reality by the time everything is done and over with, whether they come to their true senses and realize that they made a mistake. And, most of the time it's, I'm gonna whip you, or, I'll beat you up, or something of that nature. Not an I'll shoot you and kill you. And then he says, and you never let those bother you? Oh, it would always bother me. All of it bothers you. But, it's different. That's a controlled situation because that person is in custody. The position of power. Where these people, they're running loose and at large, you don't know who's on and who's coming up from where and where are they going to stop or anything else. So you're saying that's a controlled situation. Did you take any steps to talk to either the sheriff at that time or the prosecutor about the situation that could make you safer? I think that was there's only so much you can do, It's like, you can defend yourself in a lot of ways, in a lot of situations by reverse psychology or self-defense or whatever, but, unless you, like the president, got the Secret Service standing around you, you're never going to say you're going to be 100% protected. You can only protect to the best of your ability. And one would say they failed Donald. I was just thinking that, like, didn't he get isn't the picture of him getting shot with the Secret Service around him? So Osborne says, one would say they failed Donald Trump last year. Yeah, so that's not a guarantee either. So you would say there's no guarantees in life. No. You can even have the best Secret Service and still have problems. That's correct. So what steps do you take to protect yourself as an officer? Well, just be very cautious around people, how they make their approaches to me, my distance, where they are in place, where I am in place. I always look for a way to have an exit. Instead of being in the line of fire, I'll kind of be undercover, or be safe. So I'm always looking over my shoulder and always looking for a safe place to be. Mike, I've known you for a long time. Because remember, he used to be a prosecutor. David Osborne used to be a prosecutor. That sounds like how you've been my whole life, so yeah, that's very correct. So you started that pretty early in your career. I did. What do you think a fair resolution to this case would be? Well, I would leave that up to my attorney to think what would be fair. Okay, that's why we took him on board. Well, there's been a demand for $810,000. Okay, so this must have been the cumulative amount. How much of that was to be your cut? I honestly cannot tell you. I'm very confident that our attorney sent something out of which he believed would be a portion for each individual. But it's been so long ago, and I don't recall. Do you recall how that number was developed or your portion of it? I do not have knowledge of that. Okay, if I asked you to put a dollar value on all of the damages that you're claiming, could you do it at this time? I could not. Okay, can you point to any specific post by Mr. Foreman that mentioned you directly? Just the King Kong Bundy post. The post or the shirt? Well, both. I mean, it was a post out there. Well, would it be fair to say they're pretty much identical? Yeah, very close in time. I know you talked about damages that would be relating to you and your family. Should they be parties to this lawsuit? Well, they probably should have, but it's not something we ever took into consideration. You and your wife? Yeah, we never really discussed it. Is she going to be called as a witness at trial? No. Why not? Because she's already suffered enough from it. Do you think a trial is going to make her suffer more? Absolutely. If I can have a couple of minutes. Mike, have you lost any days of work due to these events? No. And then Mr. Osborne says I have no further questions, and the other two attorneys don't have it. So that is the end of Michael Estep's deposition. Next time we get together for this, we would be looking at Officer Poundcake's deposition. So that is the very next one. Then it looks like, let's see what order. They came back that same Friday that week to start more depositions. Let's see, 2. And then it looks like it would be Randy, the wife guy. That's going to be good, would be the first one on the next day. And then Sean Grooms, Lisa Phillips, and then Brian Newland. It looks like that would be the order chronologically. So I don't know why. I'm really looking forward to reading Randy's. Like, that's the one I want to read the most, I think, after we've gotten through Afroman's. So that's going to be what's on the docket for the next part of these deposition readings. What did Afroman clip? Let's go see. He should read these depositions. I would watch that in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Oh, is it in like a story? I don't think I can see that from my browser. Because right now the most recent thing I see is... It won't even let me view it on a browser. So I just see pictures as the most recent uploads, I think. But who knows? Sorry, I said I'd pull it up, but I'm going to try to see on my phone if I can see something. But it's a grid post. Oh, like one of the carousels? Oh, he did the Afroman responding. I see it. Love it. Love it. Heck yeah, as he should. That is my favorite clip from this trial. My favorite part of this trial. So, oh, thank you for the link, you guys. And remember, that would have been Justin Cooley. That was the second deposition we read on this stream. I could put his picture back up real quick. This guy. This one? Nope, not that one. I'm prepared for the Sean deposition. I am ready. But this guy. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so this is the clip then. Well, let me unmute it. How do I do sound on the computer? I don't know how to do this on a computer.
We would get a call that says, "Oh, I'm coming down there. I'm coming down to do whatever." It was a threatening call, and then we'd get a call about a tree down in a wildlife area, and we'd have to go. And oh yeah, I'm not going down there. I mean, this could be a setup. This became. We were afraid. We were legitimately afraid that this was going to turn from what it was into something violent. Because he used his position of power to spread a lie. You enraged the community, and you put me and my family in danger of this. Every bit of this was a lie, and you knew it.
Shouldn't have threw a fake rage.
Just disregard the court statement. Finish up your testimony.
Yes, thank you, Judge.
The law. Oh, my favorite. Yeah, and look at all the comments, like, use his position of power. What did Afroman say? I love how they messed up and tried to make it seem like everything was my fault. And I'm going to go, first of all, he needs to hit the subscribe button. I think this is from Instagram, which I don't really use all that often. So, he needs to hit that subscribe button. I'm going to have to go leave a comment over here. But, like, look at this. This is just trial footage now getting recirculated. Bringing more attention. Oh, I forgot you could do this on Instagram. That's hilarious. That's the whole comment. There's no words. It's just Afroman. Oh, man. Good times. Well, I love that. That made my day. It's a very good moment of this trial. EJF is out there tagging me. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody go, don't be mean about it. It's okay if he doesn't tag me. But it would be so cool if he wants to come on the show. He's totally welcome. Totally welcome. And even if he just wants to make merch and let us know, I would order merch and I would wear it on stream. Like, I would pay for it. You don't even have to send it to me for free. But I'd, of course, wear it on stream and let you guys know that there's more. I don't know. Do we want some pound cake merch? Do we want some Bundy? Do we want Brian Newland rapping in a car? Like, there's a lot. I'm fine with anything. Also, thank you to Kat Randall here for the gifted membership. Very nice of you. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Mispronounced name is like, I'm going to turn myself green. Thanks for becoming a member. Yeah, so this is, you know, I hope this doesn't end. I did see a clip going around yesterday where Factual Lie tagged me in it. It's a clip of Afroman, and he's saying he won everything, so he's acknowledging that the verdict has already occurred. And why am I hidden? There we go. He's acknowledging that the verdict has already occurred, so I'm assuming it's a recent clip, like the last few days. So he acknowledges he won everything, and that the plaintiff and the deputies sent him an offer. And he doesn't go into any specifics, but it's just reminding me of the Cardi B trial where we heard that Ron, after the favorable verdict for Cardi B, Ron, the attorney for the plaintiff who lost, wanted to send over an offer. So I don't know the details on that, but it was a clip, and based on the context that he won everything, it's a post-verdict offer that was sent over by the plaintiff's attorney on behalf of the deputies for whatever kind of offer. And I don't know if that's dealing with costs or what, but obviously my attention is piqued for that. So also, Barbara says, I think Afroman's mom should start selling pound cakes. He went to a bakery. It's like Mama's Bake Shop. I don't know the full name, but there is a bakery with Mama's in the name. And I think that might have been where he actually got the lemon pound cake, from this bakery. He recently did a video going back over there and getting a slice of the pound cake after the verdict. So also big shout out. Not only did mispronounce name, love the name, become a member, also gifting 5 to bring 5 more on board. We are growing the gang. Thank you to mispronounced name. Very, very, very generous of you to do. So, yeah. And then they're saying that means they're going to appeal the verdict. Would not be surprised. I think it's stupid. I think it's stupid for the exact... What was the end of this, this deposition we just read? Do you think a trial is going to make her suffer more? Absolutely. Like, we're aware, but we're not aware enough to stop trying to get some money. So, well, that wraps it up, you guys. I feel like my voice came back as soon as I got done reading all of that. My voice was gone the second I started the stream, and now my voice isn't groggly garbled. Isn't that funny how that works? Anyway, the next time I go live might not be to continue the part 3 of these depositions. I still want to look at the decision in the defamation case against Elon Musk. And I think that's going to be a fun stream, right? Like, polarizing figure, but the issue is still free speech. So can we get together as a chat with whatever views and where we might diverge in how we feel about Elon, or what the person accused was? Can we get through the reading from the Texas Court of Appeals on why they're reversing the trial courts, the underlying court's decision to deny the motion to dismiss under Texas's state version of the anti-SLAPP statute, TCPA. So I want to look at that. We've got some Courtney Clenny stuff that we're going to start catching up on. And guys, I'm so eager. I'm like nervous. I'm excited. But the 29th of March is the deadline for Judge Brent Bradbury's decision in the Zach Adams case. So that's going to be a decision on whether or not there's enough to warrant a retrial in the Holly Bobo case for Zachary Adams. There's a deep dive playlist of anything that you'd want to see about that case, the initial media coverage, the initial trial, all that we have that's available of the PCR hearings. We look through motions, the docket, the appeal efforts, so much. I have a deep dive playlist on the Zach Adams / Holly Bobo case. So I think it's a very egregious example of prosecutorial misconduct. If you want to go see some prosecutors on the stand, get cross-examined. That was a great time, the post-conviction relief hearings for Zach Adams. Definitely something I'd recommend. If you think it's rare that somebody's falsely convicted and that prosecutors won't lie, that prosecutors mean well, that case will be very enlightening. Courtney Clenny is going to be April 27th. The next hearing is April 1st. April Fool's is the next hearing for Courtney Clenny. We've got, we'll see. And there's a few others. There's a few other like overturned conviction stories that I want to talk about, maybe do a standalone video on. So if the next thing you see me go live, it might not be part 3, but we will do, because I really want to read Lemon Pound Cake's deposition, and I want to read Randy's, and of course Brian Newland's. Lisa's looked kind of short, I think. So, I don't know, that one might just be kind of like, all right, this video hurt your feelings. But remember, the Lisa video that we saw in court, that didn't exist during the time of this deposition. So there aren't going to be any questions about that. So there we go. You guys all have a good one. Probably see you tomorrow for something. Thank you guys for joining, and take care.